Welcome to ToV Live. It is Valhalla time. Welcome tonight, everybody, to the live stream for, well, usually Tales of Valhalla, the Aftermath Chronicles, which you just saw a little mini trailer for because we're going to be releasing episode 7 in a few weeks. And if you don't know what Tales of Valhalla, the Aftermath Chronicles is, go to our YouTube channel, Tales of Valhalla, and you'll see us there. But we'll talk more about a little bit about that later. But tonight, as we do on Sunday nights, we begin and do the ToV Podcast, which is basically talking about Heroscape, Age of Annihilation, or anything to do with Heroscape. And tonight is a special night because we are going to do, for the first time, a interview. In a sense, it's probably be an interview discussion because we have a lot of people here. It's just it's mind blowing. Let's just put it that way. And just real quick, I just want to give a shout out on the on the Twitch stream to I Hunt Monsters. I Hunt Monsters. It's been a long time, my friend. It's so good to see you again, or see you to read you. And I remember the discussions we had when it was just maybe like 10 followers on Twitch. And yes, just thank you for showing up, and I hope we have a good time tonight, and I hope we learn something. There's things to be learned, and I just can't wait to get started with this. Now let's how do I go with this? First off, we have our usual gang of compadres, as Toothpick would say. We have, right above me, Ben, MK Plus Ultra. We have Joe, a.k.a. Joe Crazy. We got Jason, Rocker Robotics. And we have Jeremy, the Elysium Collates. And we have, again, as a guest host, we got Mike, OEAO, right? Did I get that right?
Yeah, I'm just here to yell at yeah, I'm just here to yell at the other co-hosts.
Also, he also does. I mean, he's been a guest in the past, so welcome to ToV Live again. He also does the Casters of Valhalla podcast, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And then we also have Paul, aka on the forums. Let me see. I get this because of course then I forget things. Let's see here. Where is it? Okay, Garenex, right? Garenex on the forums. Paul, it's great to see you. I know we met, and I think you were on a video via Scape during ScapeCon with Ben. Is that correct?
Yep, his heavies trounced my gladiators on that video.
Okay, so you're a little bit familiar now with the
Blades?
YouTube.
Was it Blades? I think it was Blades.
I thought it was heavies, but I don't remember.
Oh. I just remember a very figure advantage, like a large figure advantage.
Yeah,
but
you're right.
Might
I
have
think
been
Blades sounds right.
Yeah,
Blades and Grimnack.
But Grimnack was the star of the show, really, as always.
Very cool. And I'll put, if you're watching this on YouTube, there'll be a link in the description below to watch that video from NK Plus Ultra's channel. See a little bit of ScapeCon and what goes on there. And so Paul reached out to me. I'd say it's been a few weeks now, and he told me, he's like, I have someone who could possibly come on the live stream interview, talk about the in-depth game mechanics, because I know a Heroscape legend basically, and I'm gonna give you a big head now, Ken. And He said, I know this guy, Ken Williams, aka Matthias Maccabeus. Is it Maccabees or Maccabeus?
I mean, so that could be a whole podcast in itself. So we'll just go with whatever you feel most comfortable with.
I'm just gonna go. I don't know if it's got Jewish roots or not, but
it does, 100%.
Okay, I that's what I was thinking. Matthias Maccabees, then. Welcome so much to ToV Live. I'd say, Ken, you've been involved with Heroscape for a long time within GenCon. You've won a lot of championships. You know a lot of things in depth. You were already on Casters of Valhalla last week with Mike, and you guys were talking about Age of Annihilation. We'll do a little bit of that tonight. Anything else I'm missing from that list?
No, I mean, I'm a 5-time Dragon Dice World Champion, but that's a whole nother podcast too.
Yeah, another time, another day, possibly. Because I saw that on the Heroscapers forum. That game, I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I don't have time to check it out right now, but something definitely to talk about in the future for sure. So what we will talk about tonight then, and here let me get to questions. Is basically interview process. I did ask my fellow panel if they have any questions to ask during this interview segment. They're welcome to if they got them, and we'll discuss some things. But first off, and this can be directed towards Ken and you, Paul, as well, if you want to chime in on this, but. Basically, when did you first learn about Heroscape and get into the game? You know, and why did you like it so much?
First got into it. It was a youth pastor in high school, actually, not Ken, but Ken also used to be a youth pastor. Who I and a friend, we were big in Lord of the Rings, so he's like, "Hey, I got this game. I think you'll like." We played it a few times in high school, and then I was rooming with the same guy in college. And he turns to me one day and says, "Hey, Paul, you remember that game Heroscape? We should start collecting that on eBay." This is right about when Heroscape had been canceled, and so prices on eBay were skyrocketing. And my buddy, he bought one lot on eBay, quit collecting, and I kept going. And a few $1,000s later, and a complete collection, still playing.
And your buddy ended up marrying one of my students when I was a youth pastor.
True story, but actually different buddy.
Oh.
That's how I got Ken. I've got a buddy named Bert who I've been friends with since about the first grade. And he, in high school or college, he started dating this girl who played Heroscape. And I thought he was the luckiest guy in the world. And turns out this girl's youth pastor was Ken. That's how I got connected with him.
Wow. That's awesome.
It's a small world type thing, you know.
It is.
Mm-hmm. And Ken, how about yourself?
I think in 2006, I saw it like on a shelf at Walmart or Target or Toys R Us. I don't know exactly. I made some comment to my mom. She's like, "What do you want for your birthday?" I was like, that looks pretty cool. It reminded me a little bit of HeroQuest. Just looking at it, and it was also called Heroscape, so I was like, "Oh, sounds pretty cool." So I bought it, and I was in my mid to late 20s.
Still living with your mom?
No, I was not living with. I got married when I was like 21. So I bought it. I had a young kid at the time, and I opened it up, and I thought it was really cool. And then we started playing it. Like I started playing with my buddies and like my future brother-in-law. We played it all the time. We had every single rule wrong. Like. We put a Kazuki Samurai in the attack plus 4 or the range plus 4 glyph, and we give him like a 5 whirlwind attack, and we didn't put order markers down, or we would roll first and then put them down. We did everything wrong. Yeah. And then I found the Heroscape forum because I was like, oh, there's more stuff. That was around wave 5, wave 6, I think. Wave 3 was hard to find back then, and I feel bad saying that because I know for like you guys, it's really hard to find. But like back then, like it was hard to find. Like I had to wait a year for it to come out for them to reprint it. And then found a guy up in Fremont. His name was Dave, Delivery Man XAS was his name on the forums. And Fremont was like 35 minutes from me, and he's like, "Hey, you should come up." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not going to come up by myself, but I'll come up." So I dragged my future brother-in-law with me. We met Dave, and he's like, "Yeah, there's tournaments." And I'm like, "What?" And then he showed me about like the order marker rules and all this other stuff. I'm like, "Tournaments, cool." And then, so I think in 2007 or 8, I went to 2007. I went to Tree Town in Forest City, Iowa, like a town of like 3,000 people, but they have like 75 people at this Heroscape tournament, in a bowling alley. And I went 2 and 4, but I got hooked, man. I got hooked.
Wow.
And then I went the next year.
Wow, that's a turnaround.
And well, in that process was and I'm sorry, Paul, I'm kind of taking your questions, but
it's all good.
No, thank you so much. It's a good to get clarifications for what you have in your head. Were there any good players during that process, that time that you learned from, or were you like self-taught mostly?
So there was Dave was a decent player. So he just kind of, I don't know if he taught me anything, but he was a decent player. So he forced me to, I guess, pay attention better. And then, so we went to Tree Town, and like on the drive up there, he started talking about this guy named Spider Poison. I'm like, what the crap is Spider? Like, come on, man, you can't think of a better name than Spider Poison. So we're driving up there, and he's like, yeah, he won like the first 3 Tree Towns. I'm like, Tree Town? And that's like called Forest City. Like, I was so confused. And then like Spider Poison won again that year, and that was like his 3rd or 4th in a row. And then Dave and I said, hey, let's put a tournament on in Nebraska. I was like, sweet, we'll use my church. They won't charge us anything. And Dave's like, okay. And then he's like, Spider Poison's coming. I'm like, I want to play in first round. He goes, I can't do that. And I go, yeah, you can. So I played him first round, and I got smoked. Actually, it wasn't that bad, but it was. But so I played him, and then I think he was my only loss to that tournament. I think I won 3rd or 4th place or something. But then like I got hooked. So I was traveling to Kansas City. I was traveling to, at the time I was living in Omaha, so I traveled over to Iowa, Minnesota, basically anything within 4 hours I would go to a Heroscape tournament. I would say I would go at least once a month. My wife was nice enough to let me go. I don't know if she may have enjoyed it. But then he kept popping up and he kept beating me, and I was like, dude, like, I remember the Tron vs. the Knights, Ben. Watching that video with your brother reminded me of, yeah, he did the same thing to me.
Nice. I thought that might be a secret sauce, the Blastotron Gladtron build.
Oh yeah, it's really hard for the Knights to overcome that. Not that it's impossible, it's hard. But yeah, so he just, like, I think he beat me 3 times in a row before I finally beat him a game. And then, not that I'm keeping track, but I'm actually 4-3 against him, if anybody's curious. But he was like his tournament percent, like he had won the 3 main events at GenCon. He was like his tournament win percentage was like over 80% or like really close to that. Like, this dude was ridiculous. Then I found out like later he went on to play like poker professionally because he was, and then like he went into like some Agricola World Champions. Like, this guy was just legit. But I mean, so I think Spider forced me to get better, if that makes sense. I don't know if he necessarily, I mean, he obviously taught me some things, but I think he forced me to get better. And then I just kind of, went on from there myself. I don't know if I had a mentor or anything like that. It was more like I really wanted to beat Spider Poison, and I'm an Enneagram 8, so when I want to do something, I go do it. So.
But you and Spider Poison never actually like discussed strategy or anything?
Well, we did when he had to play Doc in the main event. He's like, "Hey, what do I do?" I was like, don't let him engage you. See, like he did.
Okay, very, very nice. Now, obviously, we're going to talk about. I want to get in depth a little bit on like how to win championships, maybe some tips in a little bit. But right now, I want to talk about the elephant in the room, quite literally in the room, Age of Annihilation. And I know you and Mike, Ken, you guys discussed this last week a little bit. Some praises, some criticisms. So I don't want to like re-talk about that. But there is one point, and anybody listening to the ToV podcast via audio, or if you're watching this on YouTube, there's going to be a description below for Casters of Valhalla, so all of you can check out. I recommend listening to that podcast. A lot of good information and just a lot of good perspective of Age of Annihilation. the HasLab crowdfunding site, and just a hardcore gamer's perspective, basically. But there was one thing that you guys talked about, and let me see if I can phrase this correctly. In light of your comments on that podcast, I want to ask on one of the points made from the podcast, and that is how prospective new players can be confused or turned off from a confused first look presentation on the HasLab website. And because when you guys made that point, I was like, yeah, that is a point, because you were mentioning if you don't scroll down and see, the rest of the information, that it can just look very much different than what it is. And so I guess what I would want to ask is what do you think should be done? I know for a fact that Chris and probably others within Avalon Hill have listened. I know there's going to be some things probably going on in the next few weeks that will probably give more information, but just wanted to get a little bit more in depth in that. What do you think might make a difference when it comes to possibly tweaking the website a bit?
What was kind of cool about this conversation, Mike, you can jump into, but because Mike and I we kind of been on the same page the whole time with each other, and we kind of knew it, but we didn't know, because I said, hey, Mike, we should record that podcast. And Mike's like, well, are you sure? I was like, yeah. And I said, here's what I think's wrong. And I sent like 8 things. And he said, dude, like I have 7 of those same things on my list. So that was super interesting. And then I've talked to Paul a little bit about some stuff. I talked to my buddy Bo, Raider 30, about some stuff too. Because he's kickstarted some stuff, and I've kickstarted quite a few board games on Kickstarter, and when I clicked on that link, it just looked like a toy. And if you go back to thinking about like when we first saw Heroscape years ago, it kind of looked like a toy, right? But we would buy it, we'd take it home, and be like, oh man, this is amazing. But it was also only $40. So for them to try and get an introductory player to engage with $250 with little description other than, hey, these things all look super cool, but I'm not going to tell you what any of them do. I'm not going to tell you how Heroscape works. I'm not going to tell you nothing really, other than there's that cool battle video, or like Thorgrim?
Or not Thorgrim.
The journal guy.
Moon's journal.
He's talking, and that's pretty cool. But like, once again, I think we all think it's super cool because we totally follow that, right? Mm-hmm. But a new guy's like, what's going on? And so what I'm trying to say is like, I'm a little bit older than basically everybody here, maybe. But like, so I have $250, not a problem for me, okay? But if we're aiming for the new, like this tournament we were at yesterday, there was 2 guys there that were like, man, I really want to back this, but $250 is so much money, and they're current Heroscape fans. So you have 2 things going on there. Like that's a steep entry price for people who don't know what's going on. And I think that's the 2 biggest issues, is like, we really got to show people what Heroscape is. We all know what it is. We all love it. So like, we're like, sweet, let's buy it. But like, if I'm Joe off the street and I'm crazy, if I'm Joe off the street, and I'm like, hey, what is this? I literally have no more knowledge of what the game is than before I looked at that page, other than I see what it is. I don't know how anything works. And that's my biggest problem, is like, man, I want this to succeed so bad on so many levels, but like, I don't understand how that was what they launched. Other than Hasbro's a toy company and they launched a toy. Okay, well, that makes tons of sense, right? I don't know, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, even ignoring the price point for a second, like not having rules, let me put it this way, like Dune War for Arrakis, I talked about on the podcast because that's the game I just backed. I actually literally have Battle of the Five Armies set up right here that I just played yesterday with my dad. Here's Bjorn, the skin changer. Like, it's a super cool design. And even knowing as much as I do about these designers and knowing as much as I know about Simon, like, if I had clicked on the Dune page and not seen any rules, not seen any like overarching video of like how the game functions, and like the video, they had this like 2.5 minute kind of primer video that like show generally how it works, and there I saw the similarities, but also the some key differences from these other games that these guys have designed. And if I don't see that, there's no way I'm backing. If I don't see anything about how the game actually works, like as somebody that's new to a system, like I'm not backing, I'm not buying it. There are just too many games out there for me to take that much of a risk on a single game if I know nothing about it. Now, I'll talk about God Tier real quick. So Ken is the one who actually got me to buy God Tier, and I bought the company themselves had this really great deal, limited time only, like $130 shipped for I think it was 2 starter sets plus 5 expansions, and normally all that would be like at least $250, right? But like at $130, I was willing to take that risk, partly because I knew Ken liked it, and partly because it was so heavily discounted there because they were trying to spread the word and get new people to buy it. Like $250, I mean, that's twice as much. If I don't know somebody personally that's vouching for this game, I don't think I buy it. Even
There's a stranger
even
walking
with
in.
Yeah, and that's even with like if there are rules and videos and stuff showing me what it is. But if you take that out too, there's just no way I'm dropping $250 on basically pure speculation. And again, you're not featuring how the terrain works. Like for me, that's still. That and the simple rule set, to me, are the 2 draws Heroscape has. Everything else is everywhere else. I also would say the order marker system, but I don't think that's necessarily as much of a draw for a new player. I think for a new player, it comes down to simplicity and terrain, and the order marker system is one of the hooks that, like, once you try it, you're like, oh wow, this is actually a good game, and that's why I keep playing it. But I don't think that's necessarily a selling point. So again, I'm just a little disappointed with how, just like Ken, with how the page itself was rolled out. And to be honest, if I see a Kickstarter page and then click off it, I'm never clicking on it again unless I know I am. What I mean by that is, like War of Dune, I didn't back right away because I knew. I know how CMON works. I know they add more stuff later on. They changed the pledge options. They added an all-in. So I waited to pledge at that point, right? But if that's not the case, like I'll click on once on something and check it out. And it either is something that I know I'm going to back or think I'm going to back, in which case I will come back and check on it. Otherwise, I'm done. And so if I see an ad on social media at that point for that same thing that I've already checked out, there's no reason I would ever click on that ad again because I've already decided against it, right? And that's kind of my concern here is I'm just hoping it's not too little too late. As Ken and I said, there's still plenty of time left. But again, those people, if you've clicked on it once and that's all you saw and you see an ad on social media, are you clicking on it again? And I don't know the answer. But, hopefully, people are spreading the word. Avalon Hill is spreading the word like crazy. They're doing a great job. Like I said on the podcast, they're doing a great job with that, really. So, just hoping the sooner they can get that update, the better, really.
Yeah, and I think the word's going to be spread even more, and even more information. Like we're gonna reveal something tonight, exclusive to ToV Live, that we were given this morning, and it's something that's kind of cool. It's not game mechanics in a sense because we're more of a lore based podcast. We leave the game mechanics up to you guys, but doesn't mean we're not going to dive into it tonight. But yeah, it's it is a valid point, and I look forward to see what type of cards is up Avalon Hill's sleeve. I have to think, since and the one thing that gives me confidence is the fact that Craig Van Ness is running the show practically.
Exactly.
You got people who love the game who are running the show. So I'm hoping that they have a plan, and they are dead set on getting this to succeed. no matter what. So I mean, only
Now,
time will tell.
Now, my assumption is the reason that a lot of this stuff isn't already implemented and there is because of deadlines. You know, I think they want to meet certain deadlines and make sure that the whole rollout of everything is on a certain schedule, and they're trying to catch up. I mean, that box is gonna. I can't even imagine what the dimensions of that. I can't even at least the dimensions of the box, how big the box is, because it's gonna be huge. So they've been working on so much for the past probably year and a half, and you know, I don't know what the game making process is like, and I'm sure you know, somebody could explain that to me, but it's a long process. So I can't imagine, you know, you have a year and a half to work on this game, and then and they're still playtesting. They're still working things out. You know, they're in that process now, and they're trying to get it, you know, funded. And it's like, well, you're almost catching up too late. Like, this stuff you guys are absolutely right. This stuff needs to be out there first. You know, you got all of us cooked, you know, but there's not enough of us. Right. So there's a lot of these new players. There's a lot of these other people that are out there that are like, well, I need to know what it does. I need to know what this is. I need to know how to play. I need how to do this. You know, and yeah, 250 is hard to swallow for that new player. Just to touch on presentation, we just saw that they were at New York Comic Con this past weekend, which I wish I knew, because I'm literally feet away. I would have went, and I would have took my own videos and pictures.
Hey, could you have stacked the terrain when you were there, Joe, just so they could show everybody?
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I was thinking. The first thing I looked for was, did they stack it? Nope, it was a flat playing field.
Every time I've been rewatching the panel constantly because I'm just editing it into all of my videos, and I'm like, at some point, I just really wish at some point somebody picked up one of those the castle walls and just put it on another one. Just play with it. Just show us that should have been the moment. That should have been, look at this, guys. I'm gonna take this Delfort. This is what it does. Boom, bashes it, you know, and just swallows it up and go, look. You know, we can move. This is how you move the characters around. This is how you do that. We're gonna play around. You know, that would have been that moment. You know, and play with this stuff,
and even have some other terrain, like show what could be coming in the future. Like even though the initial offering doesn't include tundra, doesn't include lava, just like show what might exist in the future. Show people, and it exists in the current. People can buy this terrain, and you just have that on one, because it was multiple shelves, right? And on one shelf, show like, here's like stuff we've already reproduced back in the day for this game, like, because like the tundra set looks amazing. The jungle, like, I know there's new jungle, like the Underdark set, like the shadow tiles look great. Like just you can present it like if you look back at pictures from GenCon like 2006, 2007. They always had a ginormous trophy map on, like, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 tables, like this huge, sprawling, epic map. And I'm not saying they had to do that here, but that's the type of thing that still draws people in. And again, it's about giving people a reason to buy in. And you know, Heroscape is so flexible in how you want to play it. If you want to play, you know, 1v1 really tight competitive maps, or like, I mean, when I was a kid, I would have 6 people and we would play 3v3 with like literally every figure I owned, including on a map with literally every tile I owned, right? Like these are massive games, and the coolness, one of the cool things about that system is you can do that. So again, show people what they can get, show people what this can do, you know? It's and like I said on the podcast, you don't need every card finalized, but like if you show Mimring, if you show Airborne Elite, like if you show some of these big ones, like even Grimneck, like aside from the Chomp, like that Orc Warrior enhancement, right? Like, oh, there's no Orc Warriors now, but that's, you know, that's going to be coming, right? Unless it's Greenscales and their Lizard King, but we won't talk about that. But like it shows, it's like it's hinting towards, like, it shows you have a plan. It shows you have a plan for the future. It's not just this one release completely self-contained, like, oh, they're already thinking about those orcs that are going to work with Grimneck and get that buff, you know? And that's cool. That's really cool. And it shows foresight. And I just wish that, yeah, I just really hope they get this figured out. From what I'm hearing, they are working on it. But again, I mean, it's kind of the thing where it's like I figure most people watching the stream tonight are already backing. You know, I feel like it's going to be
like
mostly preaching
everybody's
to the
already
choir.
here. Like
Yeah.
we did our part.
And that's the unfortunate part is it's the reaching the new players that's the toughest challenge right now. You know, so.
To combine one of the things they talked about on COV with something Sir Heroscape and I were talking about yesterday after the tournament is, being able to buy like add-ons. So instead of, maybe they have a $250 set that includes one of everything, but maybe they got a $100 set with just terrain and some figures, but then you could buy just jungle for $40 or something. And because Sir Heroscape was talking about, he maybe in particular, but there might be somebody out to buy 10 jungles, but all they want is jungle sets, or Tales for you, like if you're wanting stuff for your video making stuff and you want just a bunch of walls, like you might go in for 20 sets of walls, but you don't want to buy 20 $250 sets just for 20 sets of walls.
And that is the sad part. That is the sad part, that we have to do this. We have to get through this part first in order to get that options.
Yep.
And those options. And it's
sad. Now it would get us to that 2 million that much quicker.
It would be way easier. But I think it's because of Hasbro Pulse and the HasLab program, because there's nothing else on there. I went through all of HasLab and everything was one tier. Everything is the one price. The only thing they ever had here. Only thing that I've ever seen that was more tiers was HeroQuest, and it only had 2 tiers. And the other tier was just 2 expansions that had just more of the same. It wasn't anything really too unique. The most unique thing that we got was their actual stretch goals, and our stretch goals are amazing, and I hope we can get them, but they're not exclusive to HasLab, so I assume at some point they will come out on their own. But we can get them, all of us can get them now if we can get to that 16K.
You want me to wildly speculate on why there's not more than one tier, or in the case of HeroQuest, why there's only the 2 tiers?
Absolutely, that is why we're here.
Jason,
here's what I'm thinking.
Jason, just one moment. I just want to catch up with the chat comments real quick, then I'll let you make your point. It's okay. I hate to interrupt, but I want to do this because otherwise,
for a while.
Otherwise it's gonna run out of my hands. Okay, Dampick says not having a gameplay video definitely hurt potential backers that aren't familiar with the game. Exclusive reveals, yes, there will be one. Tell me more. Yeah, we'll get it to you. Hashtag back for Craig. Yeah, a lot of us do. If the OA gets funded, there very well could be a Lizard King in the future. Oh, I hope so. And also, Undampick says, I would have backed 5 jungle sets if I had the option. I think a lot of us would have. Thanks, guys, for the comments. Keep on commenting. I'll make sure to stop in and read more as we continue as well. Okay, go ahead, Jason. Make your point.
All right. I think it's some sort of basic counting method for Hasbro. Because you could look at these projects one of 2 ways. Either you view the entire project as one item in terms of profit and loss, or you view every single individual piece of it as having their own profit and loss. So if you had, say, 2 tiers, a $100 starter set, then you had the Vanguard edition, $250 starter set. It's entirely possible, 10,000 people get the $100 starter set, and 20 people get the $250 starter set, and therefore, there's like $300,000 additional cost for those extra figures, but you only sell 20 copies of it. So even though technically the math works out where you made a profit on everything total, that big expensive starter set lost $295,000 as an individual thing. And that kind of can look bad depending on how you do the math in the back end and the business side of things. And that's probably why they were comfortable with HeroQuest, with the Return of the Witch Lord and Keller's Keep. As you mentioned, those had the same miniatures in them, in the same counts as the base game did. Or at least maybe double or something like that. But therefore, there wasn't a whole lot of additional tooling costs for the miniatures. Basically none. It was just, the one extra dollar for the plastic. And therefore, there wasn't a lot of risk in terms of having those 2 things essentially taking negative profits, because there wasn't much additional cost to those things. Other than the miniatures, it was just card material that was different, and card and books are very cheap compared to preparing miniatures for production.
Interesting. So with that in mind, it's interesting that they couldn't do that for, let's say, the terrain. You know, I mean, easier said than done with the miniatures, because they could have just said, "Oh yeah, we're doing commons. Here's the extra expansions that have, you know, tons of Morrow or tons of Vorid and tons of Revna's units." You know, and those are the expansions, and we would have went, yeah, or done the terrain, and it's like that should be an extra cost. That should be just extra terrain, you know, extra castle, extra, you know, jungles. So it's like, yeah, here's the base set for, let's say. I mean, then again, there was a thing too. They wanted to give us the most for the value, which we all think it is. But even so, it's like, let's say 250, right? Let's say if everything's the same, but we just add on extra terrain, extra thing. But what if you have to get the 250 first? Would that change anyone's perspective? Where it's like you can get the extra terrain and how many more terrains you want. Or not too many as you want. Let's go just stick it as the extra expansion. So it's like $250, but for, let's say, $100 more, you can get extra terrain, and it's like another set of, like, you know, 2 sets of jungle, 2 sets of castle, 2 sets of, you know, the base terrain that they have. Would that change anything?
Probably not. That's still that $250 starter set there, because
it is the
problem of the high cost. Now, if you could have bought the terrain totally independently, there is a market for Heroscape terrain that's not Heroscape.
For sure.
Players love the terrain because the hex size is only a tiny bit bigger than the normal hex size for BattleTech, and you now got real 3D terrain that's almost scaled to the battle max themselves. It works actually great.
Yeah, walking around GenCon, you know, for years, you'd always see Heroscape terrain repurposed for other stuff. You know, you name it, you'd see it everywhere. So there is a real market for the Heroscape terrain. You know, you see the miniatures used sometimes too, but the terrain, I mean, it's just so easy to just catch your eye everywhere, you know. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it doesn't change the math for new players, right? 250 with add-ons is no different than 250 by itself for a new player. It's still that buy-in. You know, some experienced players would be more willing to buy more copies, you know, maybe of if they didn't have to buy more uniques. You know, you just look at the value of, like, Rise of the Valkyrie uniques, and even now they're only like $1 a figure, and that's like, it's been out of production for 12 years, you know? So it's just like uniques tend to end, as somebody who has bought a lot of large lots of Heroscape and parted them out over the years to build my own collection. Like, I can tell you, I still have several buckets of just uniques that I've never been able to sell because, like, uniques don't sell. Like, they're just not liquid. You cannot sell them. And if everybody is, I see so many people backing like 5 of these, right? Or like, you know, oh, I'm backing 2 because I'm going to resell the minis from the second. It's like, if everyone's planning on do that, you're not selling them, right? Like, I don't mean that to dissuade anyone from backing for more copies than just 1. I'm just saying, personally, I don't feel that as a super safe investment. You know, if you keep the second set like sealed, I think that's a different story. I think if you're planning on getting all your money back and covering all your money with just, and also barring the exclusive minis. But again, I think if you're planning on just parting out the actual unique figures themselves that aren't exclusive, again, I would just say look at, you know, some of these other unique sets from over the years. Look at Orm's Return, right? Like, if you had bought 100 Orm's Returns, I still don't think you even get your money back. So it's just, yeah, the value's not in those uniques. And I will say real quick, I'd want to mention this to, I'm sorry, Justin or Jason? Jason, yeah. You had mentioned last time I was on the cast, you know, your concerns for the retailer. And I mentioned on our podcast that I had hoped for a retailer pledge. And, you know, unfortunately, that's not happening here. I completely agree with you, though, that would have been a really nice thing to have for the local game stores. And I think it would have drove up more sales if local game stores could back at, you know, let's say 5 copies for $1,000 as opposed to the current 5 copies for $1,250, you know. So, you know, to be honest, I don't expect the price points to change. I think that's, like, I get it. Craig's in control of certain things, and I trust Craig, but like something like that, I don't think is in Craig's control. I don't necessarily even think it's in Avalon Hill's control at this point. And So that's not what concerns me in the current reboot. Like I'm not concerned about the designs, right? I'm not concerned about the decisions made by those who I know and trust. It's the outside influences of the current structure. And I'm hoping that every future expansion isn't also put out on HasLab, but we'll have to see. You know, I don't know if that's too speculative to mention.
No, if you look at
HeroQuest,
HeroQuest isn't like that at all. So once HeroQuest was pledged, and now they just come out with expansions, and they just sell it on Avalon Hill's, separate website.
Okay, that I'm glad about that. So yeah.
Yeah,
Mike, to reiterate, Mike said, we love Craig, always have. He always comes by at GenCon when he's around, says hi to everybody. Half the time or so, he'll even play the main event champion winner. But there's only so much Craig can do. Craig's hands are tied to an extent as well.
right. And I wanted to say one thing, Mike, about because Undamped Pick says something too about getting like multiple uniques, and it's like you have a ton, you don't know what to do with them. Because I was thinking in my head, as a stop motion animator who animates these things all the time, having multiple versions of the same miniature character is actually quite beneficial and valuable for a stop. So anybody who's into doing that, I know I'm probably one out of the whole world that does that currently, but that is a very beneficial thing for me. But Undead Pick also says, but someone might be able to paint uniques to paint or repaint the uniques and then sell them. That's another good point, because that's one thing about when these things are unpainted, is the fact that every paint is going to be uniquely different than another when that's done. So yeah, that's an interesting thing.
I mean, getting a full-on pink Hellforge going around the board destroying things would be very interesting to watch at ScapeCon.
We can only dream. Yeah, go ahead, Jason. Go ahead.
No, as I sell Warhammer stuff online, resell, buy and sell people's used lots. Painted miniatures generally don't add value to them, unless, in the case of Warhammer, if you've got like the proper, well-painted official colors of a Space Marine Legion, like the Ultramarines or Salamanders or whatever. That'll make it a little bit more money, but if some random person came with their own idea of what a Space Marine color should look like, it's probably more negative impact on the value than improving it. Granted, in Heroscape, you don't really have formal legions per se that supposed to look a certain way. You could theoretically do whatever you want to in this point, so maybe players will like that, maybe they won't.
Okay, and if anybody has anything else to say on the subject, I know we actually spent a half hour on this small AOA subject. I do want to get into some like gameplay details, because we have Ken here. We can do this and have some fun with it. So like I said, everybody watching, audience, or if you're watching this on the ToV podcast or on YouTube, get out your notebooks, because we're about to have a little bit of fun here when talking about some game mechanics. So, Ken, one question I wanted to ask you, and this for me is kind of a personal question. This isn't really AOA related. It's just plain Heroscape related. A lot of us went to EscapeCon this last July, and I played some tournaments. Totally bombed, and I kind of expected that. It's hard to play Heroscape when spent the past several years animating it. I was like 1 for 4, so 1 win, 3 to 4 losses per tournament. And I just was wondering, for my own particular interest, and probably for others, what could you name, like 3 things that could help improve one's game for tournaments?
I mean, that's a very large question. I think obviously army construction would be the first thing I would think about. This weekend we had a tournament that Paul put on yesterday where it was like 400 points of large and huge figures. So obviously the first thing that comes to your mind should be who?
Q9.
the dwarves, right? So the first thing you think about is like, okay, there's going to be 400 points of large and huge figures in every single person's army. The axe grinders are probably pretty good. So I think like that. I mean, so army composition I think is obviously a first one, and another and then I think order marker management. Hey,
just
ask me, not you.
I'm just, in case anyone's confused as to why that is, real quick, Axe Grinders are a 4-man bonding melee squad. Their upside is that they get +1, and this is for anyone like in the chat, anyone watching, they have +1 attack and defense against every large and huge figure. That's against range, if somebody's attacking them at range. That's why like they're so good in that specific format. Carry on, Ken.
Thanks.
Oh yeah, because I don't have any Axe Grinders. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's no reason you should, so.
Yeah.
So the funny thing is, when I built my army for the tournament yesterday, I actually built it to counter the Axe Grinders. And then the funny thing was, nobody at the tournament brought Axe Grinders. So it is what it is. So yeah, army composition, and then I think obviously order marker management's a big deal. One of the reasons bonding melee is great because like you have to think that hard on that part of the game. I just have to think way harder in the game, and then it's like, oh man, it's initiative. What do I do? And then I would, like, one of my rules is if you're doing common squads, it's always 4x4 or 5x3 minimum if possible. And then another rule that I always live by is I never play a figure greater than 120 points if I don't have to. Because I feel like if I lose 120 points, I can still win the game. So. I mean, I guess those are kind of the 3 hard and fast rules at the top of my head that I can come up with.
Interesting. Well, it sounds good. It sounds good.
So to kind of wrap that up, that was army composition. So like, what else are the other armies likely going to be? You said 5x3-man squads and 4x4-man squads.
Yeah.
What was your last? Oh, and order marker management.
120 point figures.
120 point figures.
And Garenex happens to be how much, Mike?
120.
He's 120. I will say I don't feel great about losing a game or winning a game if I lose Garenex though, so he's kind of the exception to the rule.
You still got a chance.
You do.
Like you lose Torkoal now, you're done.
And I know Paul mentioned this to me as a question, so I'm just gonna, because I'm a little clueless about this, although I did a little bit more research of the miniature before, because I'm like, okay, what's up with this? Taylord. Apparently Taylord is like important or not important for a reason. Can you elaborate on that, Ken?
Ken, why does Taylord cost so much? And there's a correct answer to this per Craig.
You know what? I'm going to let Mike answer that one.
Mike, tell us, why does Taylord cost so much?
I'm confused.
I mean, I have my own theoretical question why he should cost so much, but I don't think, or theoretical answer, but I don't think that's what we want. I think we want the true guest. See, I'm not here. The true guest's opinion is what matters.
Well, I think it's because Raylan's undercosted, right? And attack is better than defense. I mean,
I think having played like a weaker army into like 4 squads of 10th Regiment and Taylord, I can tell you that if Taylord was the meta, games would be way less engaging than they are. Like you just murder everything really fast, and it's just not fun for anybody. That would be my answer, is that like you don't necessarily want to live in a world where Taylord is really good. You know, you don't want 100-point Taylord. I can promise you that. You don't want to face 4 squads of 10th and Taylord at 400 points. Like, it's just going to murder like everything.
Just very heavy types.
Ken, do you disagree?
No, I'm agreeing. No, I don't want to fight that. Are you joking?
Yeah. It's like Marcus, but even better.
Taylord in the 10th Regiment, I would leave.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The answer Craig gave when he answered that question on a early Scape Talk podcast back in like 2007 was he doesn't put him on a tower.
He doesn't put him on a tower. And then going back to unless do you guys have any like game mechanics questions to ask Ken? Anything?
I don't know.
When it comes to order marker management, one thing I've always I've begin to learn, and I don't know if this is just my thinking or if I'm right, if I'm on the right track or something, but simple tip that I like to try to give myself to think that I'm doing a good thing is never putting the 3 and the X on the same card.
I would say that's right 90% of the time.
Okay.
Because every once in a while, like if a Nilfheim's got like 1 life left, and maybe you want to surprise like a 1 on him, and then put the 2/3X on somebody else. That way, because most people will think that the X is on Nilf.
Yeah.
So if you really need that, so like maybe they'll ignore him because they're like, oh, none of the order markers are on him or something because he's got 1 life left and he's engaged with 2 rats or something. I don't know. So I would say that would be an exception, but as a general rule, I believe you are correct.
Cool. Yeah, because that's always something that I try to. I mean, I play a lot of Morrow, and which is funny because I always thought I was the odd man out. I didn't know the community and what they generally liked until ScapeCon, and so when I went thinking, I bought literally full Morrow armies, like thematic Morrow armies to every single tournament, and majority of the games that I filmed and played against was Morrow, and I was like generally so surprised by that. So when it comes to army composition, obviously the whole idea of Heroscape is to mix and match different characters with different things. Could I put Raylan into everything? Of course. What would stop me? You say no, but but still, right? So it's I try to think to myself like, what is the best with what, and not everything could work. So I'm sure you guys talk about Raylan a lot on casters, but so to go back to Taylord, why is Taylord not the meta?
It just costs too much.
It's too expensive.
That's simple like that.
Yeah, in a 400 point game, he's half your army. Remember that rule I said never bring something bigger than 120?
Right. So what I don't remember with his point value, because even for us and my friends, like we used to take him with the Omicron snipers, because we always thought that like you get the extra die, you get the double, all that's so overpowered. And then over time we just stopped using him, and I don't remember why we stopped.
Well, so that army, so you've got 2 squads of snipers for 200 points, and Taylord's 180. So you got 380 points in 7 figures. Okay, for 380 points, I can get how many squads of dwarves? I can get 5 squads of dwarves. So I can get, I can get 20 figures versus your 7. At some point, you're not going to win. My figures
over on
my figures cost 17.5 points per figure. Your figures are 33 points plus whatever the crap. I mean, Taylor 180 divided by 5. If you guys do that partial card scoring, so
We did yesterday.
so but yeah, so I mean like melee. We talk about this in one of our casts of Castles of Valhalla. Monday melee, the general is just so much cheaper than everything else per point, and like. Most of the good bonding melee is a base of 3 attack. Like, Death Chasers have 4. And that's what I won the tournament with yesterday was Death Chasers, because I was like, 4 attack dice is good against large and huge figures. And turns out, spoiler alert, it is. So, but yeah, so I mean, like, I would, if you sat down across me with that army, I'd be ecstatic. Because I'm like, I've got to kill 4 snipers until you're only attacking 2 per turn, and you've got to kill 17 dwarves before I'm only attacking you for under my order markers. So
if tournaments were like 1,000 points, you would likely see Taylor.
Yeah, everything changes.
But since you can't practically do 1,000 point tournament, that's why you wouldn't see him. Because you have to do the 400 to 550. I mean, I did a 600 point tournament yesterday, but it was only 11 figures. So you had to get some of those. There actually might have been a chance of seeing Taylor Yes, he's medium though.
But then, yeah, you have too many.
Yeah.
You have too many only single attack. That's how you lost the championship. Right?
Yeah.
Very
No,
nice.
I was not getting any rebirths with my eye.
Mm.
I'll also say real quick that like tailored is also better the bigger the map, like, and the more height variations with the maps. So just like if you look at and we'll be covering this on the podcast, like how maps have evolved. But if you look at like maps from like GenCon 2007 or 8, like tailored would have been at least fairly reasonable on those maps because you would have like a giant lake in the middle. So like if you can set up your snipers and shoot across that lake, like that's a lot better than if there's a road that lets them get your opponent get right next to you, right? So I think like changes in the maps have changed that. I would say like you know the average tournament is somewhere around 400 to 500 points. That seems to be the general range nowadays. So you know even at 500, like the best 500 point tailored army is probably the tailored 4 squads a 10th. You could fit Marku, I guess, too. And, like, that's playable and good, but instead of getting tailored, you could get both Raylan and Marcus. And Marcus would give the +1 attack to every 10th next to him, plus the +1 move for development, and you would get Raylan for the +2 defense. Or you could just go 6 squads of 10th Regiment themselves. And it's just hard to justify tailored, again, when Raylan costs so little, and you could get both her and Marcus for the same points. So, yeah, and Paul hit the nail on the head, though. You know, if you're playing 1,000 points, tailored becomes a really good option. You know, tailored with like in Glad Blast, especially with Raylan too, would be like disgusting to play against. So yeah, he just doesn't work in the way we play the game currently, at least.
Fascinating.
Interesting. If anybody doesn't have anything else, before, because we're about to get into like a reveal that Chris sent us, but just to kind of close out this interview for a second, I just, if possible, to speculate maybe on 1 or 2 miniatures that we found interesting with AOA. So just talk about AOA for a second. Some of the things that are like some of the positives for AOA, like when it comes to like the first thing that comes to my mind, Evil Raylan. What are the possible like stats and on that card do you think would be, just for the fun of pure speculation?
What do you got, Ken?
I mean, I have no idea. My guess would be like some sort of negative defense buff, and then my 3/3 stats. I don't know. She's riding some sort of beast, right? So
He's got to be able to do something. I mean,
Like a
I mean, I hope so.
sting
Can't
or,
just be flying.
yeah, sting or bite or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that speculation though of a negative defense buff. Like that's Raylan's only ability, but then the Manticore does something.
And what about possible Drake Alexander? I think that was already explained a bit. It'd just be flying, sword, grapple gun, already in.
And Thorian. He's gonna still have Thorian.
Okay.
And I think he said that he can bring a figure to him.
Chain grab, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Chain grab.
That's what the thing on his wrist is the hook shot on his wrist is bringing a figure to him.
Yeah, because the grapple didn't really, I mean, especially for tournament play, the maps don't have anything stacking really high, so that really never came into play. That never comes into play.
Yeah, if it would have been more like Spider-Man's swing or Venom's swing, where it's like disengage and move, that would have been.
That would be dope.
Yeah.
What about Shiori? I think that's the most puzzling miniature out of the lot, because you have 3 of the same person. What is that supposed to mean, you think?
Whirlwind attack is the only thing that really comes to mind for me. Or if somehow she has 3 different attacks, or I mean, maybe 2 of the figures are supposed to be fake, so you can only target one of them.
Yeah, that's more like a smoke counter or something.
So like maybe you can only target the back one or the top one or something. But maybe she could attack from. Maybe she could see from all of them or something. I don't know.
Yeah, because the hit zones on the card.
Yeah, that was.
You know, they're all just gonna be grayed out. Or are they gonna be all red? Is gonna be one gonna be red and the other's gonna be grayed out? Like, what's the silhouette gonna look like? Are there gonna be 3 different green spots for her line of sight? Like, what? What are we doing with this?
Oh, and
I thought was grayed out. Yeah, just no hit zone. Even I don't know that I like that, but we'll see. We'll see. It's interesting.
Undamped Pick says, let's see here, I'm so excited to get Air Captain Zed Nesbit. What do you guys think about that miniature? That's the one with the flying machine one, right?
Yeah.
You know I'm all about that faction. Love that faction.
And Glide Strikers. I think Glide Strikers, weren't those the ones that were kind of like similar to Airborne Elite? Like they
Yes.
come in, but it's easier for them to come in?
Yes. By order marker. Every time you use an order marker on one of them, you can fly in, which is interesting because there's 4 of them. So by the end of the round, you're still out 1 glider if you put all 3 on there. So.
Yeah, they're going to be fascinating. I like that there's no die involved because, like, so many games with Airborne just feel so predetermined based on that first drop roll. Like, if you're playing against, like, if it's not a great map for melee and you're playing, like, Knights or something, and Airborne drop turn 1 and just start and there's a unique attack cliff on the map. Like, I know that sounds like the perfect thing, the perfect storm, but it's happened to me, man. And it just, like, you just feel completely helpless when it's just like Airborne blasting you 5 dice from height, turn 1 at 8 range, and you have melee that walks like 4 or 5 spaces a turn. So anything like reducing that variance, like, I'm all for.
And I mean, we're winding down with the interview segment. One thing, again, when the game funds fully, I'd love to have you guys back, discuss game mechanics, whatever is being revealed, even in the next few weeks, if anything's revealed after it's out, to possibly discuss that. Great having conversations with you guys about this, and definitely want to in the future. Do you and you guys are welcome to stay on to see what's was revealed to us this morning, speculate about it. We're also going to dive into comments from the YouTube audience from the past few live streams that I need to catch up on. But before doing that, do you Mike, Ken, Paul, do you guys have any final thoughts before that?
Can I
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask a question.
Go ahead, Ben. Oh yeah.
First, before. This for kind of, I don't know how as much as this is gonna extend it, but I just wanted to ask Mike how he started in the game. We didn't really get to that, but I'm sure it has to do with his dad. I could see that happening. You and your dad see it on the shelf, and take it home, and you crack it open like, this is awesome. But I just wanted to, really hear that story real quick.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. It was even different than that. It was 2nd grade. My cousins had bought the game, and so their mom bought it for me for my birthday, and that's how I got into the game back in long time ago. There wasn't a whole lot of product out at that point. There was maybe wave 3, maybe wave 4. We bought some stuff. I had some buddies that I would play with. My cousins got out of it. They gave me their collection too, and then I just started growing the collection. Eventually went to my first tournament in 2011. After the game had been discontinued, and it was like a, I don't know, probably 24 person event out in Providence, Rhode Island. So we drove 2 hours for it. Never having ever been to, well, I'd gone to like some Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments as a kid and stuff. My dad would go, but wouldn't play. So my dad decided, if he's driving 2 hours for this Heroscape tournament, he'd be willing to play. So we played. We had a great time. I went 1-3, got smoked. My dad went 2-2, I believe, and then we won the next, I believe, 5 New England tournaments between the two of us. So, we didn't really have like mentors or anything, but we both really liked the game, and once we saw how the game was played with hordes of commons and just like that type of thing, we just, like, the two of us, we just grinded, right? We built like BOV maps, and we just played the game. We played the mess out of it. We played, all the top tier armies, like we bought like the Knights and the 4th Mass and stuff, and we just went to town. And then we went to GenCon that following summer in 2012, did well, and the rest is history.
For sure. Nice.
Cool. Any other questions from anybody?
I had another question. I
ahead.
think I was
Go ahead, Ben.
I was muted, so when you did ask before, you just didn't get to hear me speak up, and I was like, oh, okay. I
Yeah,
guess we'll
Murphy's
just-
Law, it happens.
Yeah, my bad.
Go ahead.
But yeah, for Ken, it does. If I would have caught it before, I would have asked for your most memorable competitive match. But now, just give me one, that really stands out off the top of your head, like a competitive match, whether you won, lost, whether it was the final round or the first round, like with Spider Poison earlier. But just one that sticks out, maybe one that you learned the biggest lesson from. But
Maybe that one where some 15-year-old kid beat him in main event 2013.
This guy makes stuff up, I think.
You referenced the Grimnack Heavies Blast Splads one with Spider Poison.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably, so 2009 was my first GenCon. I had played, 2007, 2008, I had won a couple of local events. And then 2009, I went to GenCon for the first time. And I think I played Meeberg Saw in one event total. So I had 50 points of melee through my all 10 different events, or 50 points of range through all 10 of my events. But I think it was 2009. Yeah, Mike will correct me if I'm wrong. In 2009, I made day 2 with heavies, and back then it was a reinforcement roll. So Mark would roll a die, and depending on what he rolled, you could add that many points to your army. And I actually don't even remember. I know I added. Yeah, I don't know what I added. Nearhack. I added Nearhack. And then round 1, I was against round 1 of day 2. I was against Spider Poison, obviously, and he's rolling Trons into my heavies, and I was like, oh man, this is gonna suck. But I was on a jungle map. I had Raylan, Nerak, Grimnack, and a jungle map. So he was shooting into 7-8 defense heavies with his Trons. And every time he brought up a Glad, I'd chomp at the next turn. And he was really. You guys gotta understand, heavies were new back then. I was kind of the guy that was. I'm not trying to sound conceited, but I was the guy that started the melee, so people weren't used to it, so people weren't used to playing against it. So he was just trying to play Trons like he normally would play Trons. So it was on I think it was on Invasion by Long Heroscaper, if I remember right. It was a road and jungle map. He was trying coming through the swamp water to get to me, and I'll block off with orcs. So he'd get 1 or 2 Trons, and then he'd try but he never really targeted Grimnack, which I think was his biggest fail. He kept trying to target my heavies, so I would chomp, then attack down with 5 attack dice. Even though he had 6 defense with Raylan, it just wasn't working out for him. But then at the end, his King and all went on a tear and took part my whole army. All I had left was Grimnack, and then I rolled a 16 with Chomp, and I beat him. So then I advanced to the next round, and but yeah, that was probably my most memorable. The fact that I still remember it now, it's pretty memorable. Because I'm
sure. Yeah, I've heard of that battle many times on the podcast before too. So it's awesome to hear the full story. For sure. To Mike, same question. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Jeez. Yeah, no, I trying to remember.
It wasn't the time you won the main event, Mike? Oh wait.
No. No, I will say all my day 2 losses have been very memorable. Every single one I've learned something from. Even if, every single one I've learned something from or just remember very vividly. I think the other one would just be there was a game where my opponent, speaking of Airborne, dropped Airborne turn 1. This was 2015. I was running a really experimental army for the time. It was 2 squads of Phantom Knights, Concan, 2 squads of Warriors of Ashra, and Eltahale. So it was like one of the early like first splash armies. Myself and like the Ashes, so like Infected Sloth and Major Q23, we were really kind of trying to push the reverse whip meta at that point. And my opponent dropped Airborne turn 1, killed 5 Warriors of Astra and 1 Phantom Knight with grenades, which was a questionable decision to grenade there, but didn't matter. He was playing Romans, so like I'm like, oh man, I'm down to 1 warrior. Like Warriors would have wrecked Romans here. But then I'm able to just with the PKs, I put all my order markers on PKs, figuring he'd target the Warriors, and I came back and won that game. I won it with like a 2-life con-cam, right? So like that whole thing from start to finish of like, holy crap, I'm gonna lose it. And I was 2-2, and back then like some 3-2s would make it, some wouldn't. It was based on strength of schedule. I ended up tying for 17th place. Like I was in a 3-way tie based on strength of schedule itself for 17th. But like that was the game like that even gave me a shot to make day 2, right? I was at 2-2. I'd lost 2 matches before to armies I knew I couldn't beat. I knew going into the event like Braxis is just like auto lose there. Like I could hope with I'm confusing the 2 events. No, it wasn't Braxis. I lost to Grimnack. Freaking Grimnack into that army, man, was so brutal. With so, yeah, I think that's probably my most memorable win. And then again, I would say my day 2 losses. I remember all but the first one back in 2012 because I honestly don't remember a single game from 2012. So it's too long ago. Sorry, that wasn't a great answer, but you put me on that spot, so your fault.
Well, all right.
It just was. I understand that, but like, me and my brother just had a series where we were trying to make like reverse the whip teams, and he ended up throwing the Airborne Elite into his army, and we both got wrecked by each other because the Airborne dropped the first drop, the first time they were able to, and he killed my heroes his first turn, and then I ended up killing because I had some Venok Vipers in my army, and so when we reversed, that was on his army, and so I ended up destroying all of his Venoks before he'd get a chance. So like Ken, and then Ken even commented on that. He's like, so you guys probably found out that Airborne Elite aren't good for reverse the whip style armies. I mean, they are if it's in your favor, but yeah, they're nasty to play against, for sure.
The list of units I would never bring to reverse whip is short, but like Airborne Elite is top of that list. Like you could not pay me enough to bring Airborne. That's not true. You could. Like I would never willingly bring Airborne Elite to reverse whip for exactly what you said. Like the games can just be so one-sided. It's ridiculous.
Sure.
Yeah, biggest hurts I ever encountered was reverse the whip. I absolutely loathe that scenario. Anything else, Ben? You good?
No, that was you guys. That was pretty good. Thank you guys for sure.
Yeah, no problem.
I was gonna ask Ken, what does he think, in his opinion, is like his scariest army to go against? But we could skip that if he doesn't want to put all of his business out there. Like if I was to play against you, hoping to win, what army would you not want to see?
10th Reg, right?
10th Reg or Warriors of Ashra.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Undamp Pick has a question. I believe it's for you, Ken, and possibly you too, Mike. Besides Raylan V1, are there any units you guys believe are undervalued?
I mean, I guess you have to define value. I mean, Mike's got his own set of power rankings. I think that kind of goes about like, how powerful. Like, I don't think Raylan's as good as he does. I know I'm pretty different than most people. I would put Raylan around B plus maybe. She just doesn't fit my style of armies that I play. And like yesterday, in Q9 a few times, and it was whatever. Like I wasn't really concerned ever. She just doesn't scare me near as much. But I like it's hard to say for sure. But like Mike, like I know Mara Warriors probably my strongest one. That like holy crap, you got to kill those guys, and like you have to make a plan to kill those guys. Otherwise, you will lose.
Yeah.
If you don't have a plan, because like both I think I ran into him twice yesterday, and like as I was beating on Q9 with my Ogre Warhawk, I ran some Death Chasers into the start zone just to kill the Mario Warriors, not to worry about them in the end game, because I did not want to have to deal with that. But I felt like out of all the armies I played yesterday, it was always the Mario Warriors that I was like, okay, I got to figure out what to do. And then like last year at Paul's tournament, I played Wolves of Badru and Werewolf Lord, and I won the tournament. But I won the tournament because I also had Mario Warriors. Like
Are Mario Warriors like the insurance? Like you do not rush them in first. You keep them back.
You very rarely rush them in first. I mean, if you need a screen, if you need a glyph grabber, they do have 6 move. But if you're doing that, I feel like you're doing something wrong, or man, there better be a good reason. And I'm not saying there isn't, but there could be. But like generally, yeah, you want them in game. Of course, in time games, like it gets a little tricky because they're only worth 50 points. So like if you have Mario Warriors against Spartacus at the end, like you're going to win, but Spartacus is worth 200 points. So if it's a time game, you may not put enough wounds on them before the game's over. But I think, to me, Mario Warriors I need a plan against. I mean, obviously 10th Reg and Warriors of Ashura, but I need against Mario Warriors. I don't know, Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think they're probably the best unit in the game. I think one of the reasons is the presence of the unique attack glyph in the pool. It's a 5 glyph pool right now, and unique attack glyph like helps Mario Warriors more than anybody other than I would say Airborne. Mario Warriors are getting. So here's a context where I thought Mario Warrior Rush. That if you want to just go all in on Mario Warriors made sense. Like I lost a game in Betrayal, which was a different format back in 2021. If I win initiative second round, I win that game. Like that's how one-sided the game already was. I had Mario Warrior on unique attack glyph. I had 3 Mario Warriors on height. He had it was against Major Q23, who he didn't end up winning it, but he had Braxis. I put 7 into her on round 1. If I win initiative, I kill Braxis and I wipe the rest of his army that round, and I win the game. And there's almost no other unit you can say that about. Like that rush would not have worked with anything else. I rushed because I felt the matchup was really tough based on what he had. If I didn't rush, I would normally not rush them. Like Ken said, it was a very specific scenario where he had 1 squad each of both Weight and Fire squads and Braxis, and I had like 2 squads of dwarves with the Hydra and the Mario Warriors and something else I had stolen from him because it was Betrayal. He had stolen my Braxis. And so just between Braxis and the 1 squad each of the Weight the Fire squads, I felt like my dwarves would get melted. Not so much the Braxis, but the Weight the Fire squads definitely, with only having 2 squads of dwarves. I was worried about losing order markers, and I just felt the rush was the best play. And again, if I win that top of round 2 initiative, it's game over, and I can't really say that they're like Airborne in that scenario, but they're even more consistent, right? Like, because you don't have to roll for the drop. They just get that round 1 rush and start. And again, the unique attack glyph is huge there. So I think for all those reasons, they can be clean up. They can really do almost anything, and yet they're only 50 points. Like, it's nuts. That value is crazy. I was on the Raylan is the best figure for a while. I thought she was, just because she was so good with everything, and I still think she's incredible. But man, Mario Warriors are like number 2 on the list of units I will never bring to a reverse whip, right? Like that list is like 5 units. It's like them and Cyprian, and a couple of the other really high variance units like Sudema. But man, I just remember seeing somebody wreck with Mario Warriors in 2017 or something, and like after that in main event, and like after that game, like myself and the Ashes, like we've all basically collectively said like, no, we're good. Like, they're too good. And I think the community before 2017 didn't understand how good they were. Like people knew they were good, right? But they were ranked like A. It's like they are very clearly not A. They are A+, if not the best A+, in my opinion. So yeah, everything Ken said.
All right. And again, thank you guys so much for joining us on this interview. For this interview segment of the ToV podcast, this ToV live stream. It was wonderful having conversations with you guys about this. Definitely invite you to come back on in the future. Would love to have you. If you guys want to stick around for a little bit longer just to see this little bit of reveal, and then we can sign you off, and then we'll continue with YouTube comments after. So this morning is what was dropped to us, ToV live panel from Encarmine Chris, and it's an image. So get ready for this. This kind of is the beginning of the answer to my kind of demands to show me the map. But let's just show what this image is right here. Okay. So this is and it's the title is HS Compass Rose number 2, and this is definitely looking to be like going to be part of a map. You have what looks to be indicated like north, south, east, west. So this is kind of like a clue of what these symbols might mean via the language that they're creating here. And my big question is, whose face is this? And I just noticed now the eyes are closed on this as well. On this face within this has got to be someone.
They're not closed. I don't think they're closed. I think they're just very godly.
Oh
and
yeah,
like
actually they're half
light.
lidded. It's half lidded. You're right.
Yeah.
It is half lidded. Now that I look a little bit closer, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Oh, interesting. So, is this like?
It almost looks like maybe there's a light coming from them, like they're shining.
It does a little bit. Mm-hmm. Now, I wonder if this is a character we've never seen before, or if it's a character that we know, we just don't know yet.
Could it be Thormoon?
That was my speculation. I think who said something contrary to that? Was that you, Jeremy, or was that someone else?
No, I mentioned he's never gone south. So
yeah, he's never gone south. That's what Jeremy was saying. That.
And so, like, I was suggesting that whoever's face that is, if the person's important, is probably the person who funded the expedition, or like the map maker himself, or someone like that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it could possibly be Thorman, or we talked about it a bit in the chat too. Was Jandar, just because of like what is the significance of like the almost octopus tentacles coming out of his beard? Is that significant? I mean, obviously it is because it's in the picture, but like, what does that mean? Who is that? Like, and what I think about with the Jandar symbol, it is, I mean, maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but I feel like there's almost like an octopus tentacle like aspect to the beard in the Jandar symbol as well. I might be totally off, but
quite possibly.
Yeah.
And the feathers on the top part too seem to indicate that this possibly
was it Kyrie?
Yeah, is a Kyrie or a Valkyrie or something for sure.
That's also why I suspect it could be Thorman, because he is the expedition expert by now. He's been on his expedition for 60 plus years, and he knows the lay of the land because it's been a certain amount of years into Age of Annihilation, and so he's now like in that trailer, he said he wants to pick up arms and start fighting because he's seen stuff now. So maybe he has traveled enough to create his own map in this Age of Annihilation. So that's also what's making me lean towards maybe this is Thorman's picture, because that does kind of look like a Thorman to me.
It is possible. I just like the fact that this definitely is indicating a map. I love the design, intricacies of where things are pointing. So I can imagine like this being in like the corner of the map, because the waves indicate like ocean. Blast Shark, hello Blast Shark. Thank you for commenting. It could be Arkyrie Meagle 2. Do you know, Jeremy? Do you know anything about Meagle 2?
Yeah, that's the character that is based the map campaign scenario. It was Rise of the Valkyrie, one of the last ones, Miguel's Tomb. That was that's the tomb for that guy. And yeah, he's one of the ancient archkyrie. Like back when they had some sort of like there was a story of like a government that was going on that we got like little hints and stuff like that. Miguel was one of the archkyries, and he got buried in that area. So it's probably because he's pretty important. He's got his like named location. I think he got named twice too. So
That's a good thought, Blast Shark. Very nice comment. Yeah. And any other thoughts about this before I close this out? Now, I don't know if Chris will be posting this like sometime with week. I'll ask him, and if not, then I'll just post it so people can grab this on Discord or Facebook. I'll ask him. But now that we've revealed this, I'll see if he just wants to release it or if I should release it myself. We'll see. But if people asking like, oh, I want the image. Okay, we'll see what we can come up with. At the beginning of this week, and supply that. But yeah, that's it. That's the kind of little teaser reveal. Since I don't know what do you think is. We're gonna get into lore. I know Snoresville for the analytical game players, but Jeremy, what do you think this might indicate when it comes to the lore of Heroscape?
Well, we already got the hint that there's places that they've added to the map that
Right.
we don't have any access to yet. We the conversation that went on in the Discord about the Sundered Sea when they introduced that pirate faction. We were like, "Where's the Sundered Sea?" And like everyone pulled up their maps and they were trying to look for it, and it wasn't on that map. And so the map we have is based on this like wallpaper thing that was available on the original website, right? So this map's old as heck, and so we're trying to like look at this old map and find this location. It's not there, and so Chris goes, "Oh, because it's on that map's too small," and so he's already added locations that are not visible to us right now. And like with the HasLab campaign, they dropped the term New Tortuga, right? And like I was trying to poke at that, and so there's a place called New Tortuga in Valhalla, which is insane. Like it's a hinting at a larger world, especially with the directions. They have, if you saw those letterings, right? That was the lettering that they were hinting at back in the day with the Kyrie symbols, the Valkyrie symbols, the letters at the bottom. So they're using that letter system to like further push the idea of the civilization on Valhalla, and it's expanded to all four directions. We're gonna get a bigger map, and so we already got a couple places that don't have a spot yet. We're probably gonna get that at some point. Who knows? We just gotta back the HasLab so we can see a bigger map.
I want a globe. I want a globe.
But if we got all four directions and we got some places we haven't seen yet, there's going to be a lot more places to look forward to, and especially for building maps too. For the map builders out there, with all these new named locations, who knows what they're going to be releasing, so you can build those maps for it.
Yeah, because even Craig said it at the panel. Like, I hate keep bringing this up because to me it's obvious, but it's like when this gets funded, they have tons of ideas for terrain. Mm-hmm. And I hate that it's like, oh, we have to get through this part. I wish they could show us concept of even that stuff. But like I said earlier, it's like majority of it is time restraint. They got to fix and work on this and make this is complete first before they can move on to everything else. But he even said like they could be futuristic walls. They could be different type of. I mean, because of the walls being easier to interchange and have different combinations and stuff. But that'd be so awesome to see that same design they have implemented, and have different rules based on if it's a futuristic wall, if it's an ancient wall, if it's a Nartutogar wall, or whatever, if it's a sea wall, I don't know. But it would be, we just have to get past this to see the. I mean, there's already cool stuff here. We're ignoring the fact that stuff that's already here that we love to look at, but everyone's like, okay, what's next? So it's like that's why I think it bothers a lot of us because it is being campaign funded, and we're like, we want this. we want more. So with that already answered, I feel like, yeah, it's going to get funded. And so I'm going into a different subject matter. So.
That's fine.
Ranting, I love it. It's
Anyway,
great.
so that's a surprise drop we got this morning, and glad to share it with you all exclusively here on ToV Live. And now with Ken, Paul, Mike, I'm sure you guys do you guys want to stick around, or should I have you gracefully sign out before we continue?
We're up for sticking around for longer.
All right, cool. Mike, how about you?
I'm in. I will say on the map, I think that's sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but just while we're on the subject of maps, I remember printing out like the map we had on like I didn't have like, you know, fancy paper or anything, so it was literally just like 9 sheets of just printer paper, right?
Yeah,
and I didn't even have a color printer, right? So it was just like printed it black and white on this you know, toner only printer. And I remember my buddy literally duct taping, you know, with like bright blue duct tape or something. I wish I still had it. I found it like years ago behind like my game shelves because it slipped back there. But there was this cool thing on Schober. It's called Heroscape. It didn't fully pan out, but it was like you're gonna play like, you know, campaign style where you're moving from like location to location. Like I love maps, so like if people like, I'm super excited for a new map, and then like if there's some like game variant based on that, like I would love that. You know, I'm also super excited for the scenarios that are going to be in it. So like, just because I'm a competitive player, like I do really enjoy like these other aspects, you know, and these other ways that you can mix things up, you know. So
yeah, I mean, that's how I like playing with my kids. We went through the scenarios and stuff. Well, and even like, and you guys may have talked about this before, but even like Lord of the Rings, like every new age, the map changes, the world changes a little bit.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, for me, I'm thrilled with the fact that if there's more map, there's more space, there's more story, there's more source material to use for, you know, because I know it's not just Tales of Valhalla. I mean, within the Heroscapers forums, there are people writing stories on lore, on Heroscape lore all the time. There's tons of it out there. So it's not just me. I'm just the one who just presented my ideas as visually as I possibly could. So yeah, just to have this expand out and to see more locations, especially with Hochland. I mean, to know that. At the very least, that's going to be talked about. We're going to have miniatures and Valkyrie from that area, and find out more about that is exciting as well. So yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, it's just another way to get people attracted to the game too. I mean, one of the goals of Tales of Valhalla, and I see it, and I repeat this often, but I'll say it again, that I know there are a few people that are probably back in this campaign, which a year or two ago, they didn't know what Heroscape was. They found out about Heroscape through Tales of Valhalla, enjoyed the lore that was being presented and the characters, and it's like, okay, what's this about? Found out about the game, start getting it for their kids. And so I guarantee you that they're backers for it, just because they have that emotional connection. But yeah, any other thoughts before we get into YouTube comments?
Jeremy kind of touched on this a little bit, but that kind of, I mean, Encarmine like said it to us directly, but it solidifies the language that they're going to have too. Because if you see that on the compass rose, those letters are the actual letters. So we did kind of ask him, is that north, south, east, and west? And it is. And like, those are the characters for the language being spoken or written. And he gave us a specific name, but I don't even know if we're allowed to say it, you know, on air. But yeah, there's a language developed, or that is solidifying.
No, we can't talk much about that, so hush.
Yeah, but it's just, yeah, they have stuff.
It's a little bit in development. It's a little bit of deciphering for those that are very interested in languages. Yeah, it can be another way to start deciphering things. If north is N, and then so now you know what N is. Now you know what, you know, S for south, east, west. So yeah, it's just more things to find out, about.
And Jandar's name. So.
Yep. Well, and that language that they showed, in the weeks previous. So
Same lettering.
Start matching that up. So I know there's a lot of people that love languages, that love linguistics like that. So yeah, there's more to explore. Now, let us move on to the next segment, which is YouTube comments. And these are comments from all the people. And again, thank you, everybody who support this show by commenting, subscribing, liking videos, watching the ToV Podcast audio version, who are commenting live right now. Always appreciate that type of support to keep all this running, and gives us a reason to. So now we have a few YouTube comments because I forgot to have the few comments that we had from 2 live streams ago. Forgot to get those for the last live stream, but I have those, and then I have last live stream's comments. So let's dive into those. Here, give me a moment. Get this. And I know there's probably 1 or 2 here from you, Paul, as well.
Yeah, I was about to say we answer a question from Paul every or we talk about a comment from Paul every time. That's good, and it was funny because like you had commented on one of my videos, and I realized, Demon Pillar Hunter is Paul, and then when they said like one of the first times we mentioned your comment, I was like, oh, that's Paul. Like, nice. he's watching the live stream for sure.
For sure. Now let's Prey Dragon. I believe this was for the that Thursday live stream before PulseCon. Says, I'm wondering if Knight Primus Aelburn will have a knockback effect with the way he's swinging that giant mace. Refresh my memory again, because this was
He's
a long
the big bear.
time ago.
Yeah.
Who's the big bear?
The bear.
Big bear.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
He better bond with the Frost Claw Paladins, is all I'm saying.
Some bonding.
Yeah, I think he should be a knight, right? So technically, he should bond with, not bond with, but get synergies from all the people who benefit knights. That would be cool.
Sir Dupois?
Concan, let's go.
Are there any
Yeah.
mods that bond though?
No, not currently.
Okay.
I mean, that's a whole nother podcast, but yeah.
So they, based on past precedent, they probably wouldn't bond because they're a unique squad. But there could definitely be others that they're releasing that he would bond with.
Good point.
Like
we'll have to see.
Bear Knights as a common squad. That would be nice in the future.
Oh.
Bear Knights.
It'd be over.
Very nice. All right, now moving on. Okay, yes, Demon Hunter. I have no idea who this person is. Demon Hunter Pillar P86 says, Master of the Hunt is a great hero killer and is worth it in a hero-centric match. He doesn't get a ton of use, as in general. He probably won't be worth his points if they're squads. Love all year's discussion. I really like the idea that bears initially took heavy casualties, including Oberon's hands being severely wounded or cut off. I thought that was a good touch. But was then nursed back to health and had his hands replaced by Vorin. Super interesting knowing about the Tarn Viking almost being a 5-man squad. Yep. Sir H's update was the first time I had heard of that. It's really cool. They hinted at that Elgrim's bio. I'm betting if they had actually done that, they would be much more utilized unit in the tourney scene today. Yeah. Probably. And we had to wait how many years before we actually are potentially getting now a 5-man squad.
Yeah.
It's my favorite so far out of everything.
Yeah, the fast spreading honor guard. Unbelievable.
See, Undent Pick says Knights. Undent Pick says on the stream chat here, Knights bond with human champions.
Right. They're not going to bond with the bear with the giant mace, right?
Right.
But some bear knights.
That's what I'm talking about.
Depends on how they word it. I don't know. Let's see.
There could be synergy though. Anyway, it doesn't necessarily have to be bonding.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, next. Okay, and this, let's see here. Such a cool, again, Demon Hunter Pillar 86. Such a cool opportunity for all you personally and Sir Heroscape for the Heroscape community. Yeah, okay. All these messages are mixed. So this was last Sunday's, and I don't know, Thursdays is coming sometime. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, it's just gonna come. It's not in any particular order. This is just how they're coming up to my computer. All right. Such a cool opportunity for all you personally and Sir Heroscape for the Heroscape community. It's really cool to see Encarmine and Hasbro in general reaching out and connecting with the community. Definitely not something I would have predicted at the beginning. Kudos to you, Ryan, for reaching out. Oh yeah, this was Thursdays because yes, I was talking about how how Chris kind of contacted me via my YouTube channel and then I contacted him via Discord. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sometimes you gotta in life you just gotta take the shot. You could get rejected totally, but you know what? What do you got to lose? Literally nothing. So, and everything to gain. So that's how I feel with when it comes to doing things, for sure. All right. And let's see, moving on. Inventive Harvest. We need 150 people a day to do this, and I'm thinking probably that means backing the crowdfunding campaign.
That's what he's talking about.
We just need to have people to do this, basically.
There's a lot of people doing spreadsheets and numbers and calculations. Why?
It just needs to be done.
Someone's got math. I don't like math. Math is not something I do.
Calculating?
Yeah, they're
making
spreadsheets and stuff.
Spreadsheets.
Yeah, there's like an Excel spreadsheet that's tracking graphs and like it records every day, and there's like a Python code that's been getting the data, and I'm just like, that is way over my head. I can't
bless everybody's hearts. I know like some people are probably getting cabin fever or going insane over this. The only reason that's not happening to me is because I have other work that I have to do. So I still look at it, but it's not driving me insane yet. So all right. Anyway, I gotta thank. Let's see here. Let's back up here. Okay, and thank you, Inventive Harvest, for the comment. For sure. And okay, moving on. We got comments from a few people here. It says, Ken Libetter says, is there a link of a video of reveal at PostCon should we watch? And yeah, that was one link that I did not post, and I posted it, and I even commented below saying, oh, here's the link. So yeah, thank you, Ken, for that heads up. Whenever I don't post a link, it's because I probably forgot. So if anyone wants to comment below and say, can you post this, please? I'll get it up as soon as I possibly can. So always thanks for the heads up for that. Kaizuki says, you are all awesome. Thanks for keeping this going. Thank you, sir. It's great to, always love those little comments. Okay, Max Stubbs says, would love to back this product. $250 for everything, in my opinion, is very reasonable. Unfortunately, I live in Quebec. I know it's a killer, which is the only place they do not ship. Hopefully you guys reach your goal and I can order it from someone else after they release it. And thank you, Max Stubbs, for the comment. And there's even like, I noticed there's some type of comments. I don't know how far it's gone on Facebook. And I think on Discord a little bit too, about commenting that for those who are in regions that can't back it, that there might be like shared opportunities, like someone get it for them or something. I know there's those types of conversations happening. I don't know if there's anything in fruition. But I'd say just keep on digging. If you really want it, keep on digging.
Ryan, I got to jump in here real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got to sign off here in just a second.
Okay.
The YouTube channel, Always Bored, Never Boring. He's got some good updates about where it's available, and it is now available in the EU, and Australia and New Zealand. Other people might already know that, but it was news to me when I saw his video.
Okay.
It's
opening up. Yep.
So, just like I said, he's got some pretty good. He's got a very neutral stance because he said that he's probably not supporting it. His last one sounded like he was getting closer, but he's got a very good, like I said, neutral stance because he doesn't plan on supporting it, but he's still putting it out there. But like I said, we got to wrap it up and.
Okay, well, let me give you guys a graceful exit then. So, so Ken, Paul, wonderful for you guys to join us again. You're welcome back anytime to have these in-depth discussions. It's something that's not really. I mean, we usually discuss lore, little game mechanics, but it's always fun going in depth. If you want, I don't know if you guys want to endorse anything that you guys do, like any tournaments that you lead or anything, or just your Heroscapers' names. By all means, but go ahead and give your final thoughts, and anything, any place that if it's just Heroscapers fine, that people can contact you. Go ahead and do that.
Yeah, Paul Tompkins, Garenex on the forums. I've done 2 tournaments here in the Omaha area last year, and just yesterday we had 13 people show up. It was a really good turnout. Really impressed with it. A lot of fun. Sir H was able to make it out, and Ken was obviously there. So I was impressed with who came. Ken's got like what is your son? 13. Something like that.
11.
Oh, he had to think about it. Good. And there's another buddy who's got an 11-year-old son, so we're definitely getting some kids into it, and even had a guy from 8 hours away in South Dakota come down to attend. So I was impressed with how far a reach we had. He said we were the closest tournament he could find, but I got my first foreign coming here in a couple months, so my attendance at GenCon is not sure where it's going to be at, but and look for my next Omaha tournament if anybody wants it, either next year or early 2024. So they can.
Matthias Maccabeus on the forums. Every once in a while, when somebody remembers, we do this podcast called Tales of Valhalla. We do kind of do more the mechanics type deal and gameplay and stuff like that. So check it out if you get some time. Check out ScapeCon if you want to, even though it's already sold out. So I don't know why I'm promoting it. But yeah, so I appreciate you guys letting us jump on. Sure. The biggest thing I can say is Heroscape's a fun game, man. Whether you're playing competitively, whether you're playing scenario based, like whether you're playing with your kids, like it doesn't matter, man. Like it's just a great game. Let's figure out how to get this bad boy funded.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. I appreciate the comments, guys. Hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure.
For sure.
All right, and Mike, you're still good?
I might sign off. I was leaving my work for tomorrow night till tomorrow morning, but I might try to get some of it done now, I suppose.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, go ahead. Give your final thoughts and where people can see you.
I don't really have anything to plug. Ken plug the podcast. Occasionally we record. I'm sure. So, yeah. I'm sure we'll record something. Well, I said that a while ago too. I imagine we'll record something. After the campaign finishes, hopefully celebratory. Really hoping for that. If not, theoretically, I have like 10 ideas still for podcast episodes that haven't been recorded, and it's just finding the time. So. Hopefully that'll be done soon. ScapeCon, get on the waiting list. Don't listen to Ken. People have stuff come up. There's no downside to getting on the waiting list if you're interested in coming. You're not financially, you don't have to pay anything. You could just get on it, and then you can see come February if you can still make it or whatever. So, it's just crazy that we're at 72. So, or really, we have 72 and like a 7-person waiting list or something. So it's pretty nuts. But all the casters of Valhalla will be there. It's gonna be great. So, nothing else to say. Thanks for letting me come on, Ryan. Appreciate it. Mike, this was a good conversation.
Always a pleasure to have you on, and you're always welcome to hop on whenever you feel like it. It's great to have you.
Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't harass Ken all that much. I was trying to be respectful, but.
One thing before you hop off, though, I just want to not back like my opinion matters, but the Casters of Valhalla, I've listened to that podcast probably more than anybody. I can honestly say that without any I know I probably have listened to it more than any single person because I downloaded them onto my phone I listen to them all shift long at work. I'll literally replay another episode like within the same time limit just because I want to get all the information I can, because I really look up to Mike and Ken specifically, not specifically, but them two specifically, both of them specifically, because they just have really valid points and they just have such experience with this game that they are the truly only competitive Heroscape podcast out there. Everything I've learned in terms of like gameplay development, like army composition synergies, is I've really learned from that podcast. They've taken my gameplay to a completely different level. I feel like I was able to do so well, not do as well as I did at ScapeCon because I've listened to the podcast so many times. And also I know for sure listening to them is the reason why I have more of a inkling to go towards melee bonding. So that I've picked up from them 100%. I agree with them that melee bonding is the superior archetype of army composition in Heroscape. Thank you for all you've done, Mike, and Ken too. I kind of wanted to say this when he was on here too, but they had to get going pretty fast. But yeah, thank you guys. The casters are really doing a good job in upping people's game like me. I just got back into the game after a decade of not playing 2 years ago. And so just like, I know my game has improved just by listening to the podcast, like leaps and bounds than if I just did it by myself. So thank you guys. And I do give that podcast like 2 thumbs up. Go check it out. All things competitive Heroscape, they talk about and will talk about. So just a great group of guys, funny guys. I like the banter between you and Ken. That's some of the funniest like listens is when you guys are going back and forth. So thank you again. Sorry for going off on this tangent, but I just really want to back them. Go listen to them, guys. If you watch me, whatever my subscribers, go listen to them. You guys might, like 90% of you probably already do, but for the 10 that don't, go listen to them, and you can up your Heroscape game too, for sure.
Absolutely.
We're okay. Ben's just a fanboy. We're okay.
I am. And I hate that every time I talk to you or every time at ScapeCon I was seeing Casters of Valhalla, I like look like a fanboy, but I'm literally a Casters of Valhalla fanboy. You guys have one, but yeah, for sure.
No, I mean, I appreciate it, Ben. Really, it makes it. It gives us a little more motivation to record more stuff when people are, appreciative and happy. So,
Sure.
I'll try to get more stuff out soon. We're gonna be diving into maps and yeah,
for sure.
But all right, Ryan. Again, appreciate it. I'll have to jump back on soon, especially once we have some better knowledge of like what's going on. I'm hoping this week we learned some stuff from Avalon Hill, as I mentioned before, and I'm really hoping to see some changes on that front. So I'd love to discuss that once it happens.
For sure.
All right.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Again, assuming it happens. So
Right.
For sure.
just fingers crossed.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Oh, awesome.
Sure.
See you guys.
See you, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Later. All right. Now let's continue. Let's see here. I just want to, let's see here in the live chat. The Undamped Pick says HasLab. The HasLab is driving me nuts. I just want it funded already. I'm going to be more. I'm going to feel a lot more comfortable when we're very close to 8,000. As long as we're past that, then I'm like, okay, it's good. Then we're good. We're good. But until that, yeah, it's still going to be a little bit stressful. They can't say Heroscape is coming back just to take it away without giving us a new product. Yeah, and this is one thing that I can say. Chris, Encarmine, him and I imagine his team as well, they are very motivated to get this funded. Like losing is not an option for them. So, I mean, we'll just have to see. Like I said, we'll have to see. And I will give this a plug too, that we're going to be doing it since the HasLab this funding is going to end on a Wednesday night actually. So I do live streams Wednesday night anyway. So when the countdown's happening, we'll do a ToV live stream on that Wednesday. I don't know, November 15th, 16th, something like that. And I mean, I'll formally announce it the sooner that we get to that date. But just so when that countdown happens, and we'll talk over either the success and the less than 1.1% chance of failure. And just So, because I mean, what we want to do is back the community as much as possible either way, and give as much a positive reinforcement either way as possible, because even if it's the end, it's not the end, and even if it's the beginning, then awesome. But either way, we'll be there and face the music for for the whole thing. So yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's go back to comments so we can wrap up this podcast up, because we still have a few here. Okay, did I? Yeah, let me bring this up. Okay, I think I was about to read this one. Yeah, conversation. Okay, Kaitsuki says conversation around. I think this was last week's podcast, around 1 hour 49 minutes. I think Craig Van Ness was pretty clear about shifting loyalties. Even Raylan was Jandar, but is cast red now that she reports to know the Kyrie. It won't be based on who summoned them exclusively anymore. Yeah, I think we were having that conversation about who is who's what general is in charge of who. So and Craig Van Ness made it very clear on who they report to, not who summoned them. But in most cases, who summoned them is who they report to. But I can see where that can get confusing.
The wording wasn't incredibly clear, but
right.
We know based on that the fact that the colors are going to be the figures. So the Dawn Raiders are still going to be Ugar and Vidar and Einar and Aquila, whatever.
Right.
Also, though, too, it's something to note that all of these factions and like who these figures report to are subject to change. Like, they are not finalized, even if they have been like the renderings were in a specific general or something like that. Even that is subject to change. That's like, all of this is not final. Most of it is 95% finalized, but there's a chance that we could see shifting of like alliances between, just for example, like the Frostclaw Paladins. Maybe they might not follow Jandar, or maybe they something that small or that big, if you want to put it. But there are changes to come, and a lot of these faction ties and faction affiliations and general affiliations are subject to change.
Right. And here, Kaisuke also says, I'm confused, though I may have just missed something about why Encarmine specifically said that no one had officially called this a master set, when that's exactly how most people are going to see this. Was that to throw us off the scent of the truth? Does it mean they do not consider this a master set, or was it just the distinction between us talking about Age of Annihilation and the Vanguard edition that they had yet to announce? I'm curious to see if they break some of this up in future printings, as though these pieces actually won't be tied together as a master set in the future. Yeah, they didn't say master set because this obviously isn't master. It's way too big. It's just way too big to be a master. That's why I like Vanguard. That's a great name for it. At least that's one thing, that.
Yeah, I know he said that people expect a certain thing when they say master set.
Right.
And I get that. And Vanguard does sound cool. I get that. But to me, it's a master set. What I see as a master set is a big box with a bunch of stuff. Either that's terrain, if that's, figures, it comes with a rule book, it comes with scenarios. It's got those base things that we all think of a master set. That to me is what a master set is. And Vanguard is a cool word. It's really cool, but nothing says better than master. It's the ultimate, thing. Like, if you could just, I would love to just be like, I just want a master rule book at this point. That just has everything that we, I don't know what to do now, because I was originally going to work on the ultimate guidebook. But now with this, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So
on pause right now.
Yeah, that's absolutely on pause. But yeah, to me, it's a master set. It's going to be really hard to if they are going to try to market this differently in the future, and let's just say this is a hiccup. This is just going to be like the Vanguard edition, and then they'll go back to going the master sets and waves and all that, and that's great.
Well,
Fun.
I think Chris even said this is when I think this was before they announced this, that he's like, well, this is like 3 or 4 master sets in one. So that's why they didn't really want to call it a master set, because it's just, huge. So
I guess, yeah.
And let's see, Stormbrook, I'm not sure what you mean. Can you elaborate? Stormbrook, you commenting there in the chat, so you ask, what about Thorman? What about Thorman? From what context?
About the map? Like, what are we?
I don't know. This was just recently commented. Just elaborate.
Yeah, no, I'm asking him. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll do our best to answer. Would he be a general? I don't know. I mean, that hasn't been brought up, and that hasn't been asked, actually.
Well, in the trailer, he said the gloves are off, right?
Right.
Yeah, they're hinted in the Discord. Encarmine made the hint that he's actually drinking the water again. So because he said we've revealed 2 Valkyrie. Actually, I revealed 3. Like he corrected himself in the Discord and said I've revealed 3 with this trailer. So based on that commentary, I'm assuming Thorman's also drinking water now. So, or back to drinking water, because he was the first one to drink water. But
interesting. So we might see a Thormum Valkyrie general.
I think he might follow Jandar though too. Even being a Valkyrie, I think he fits in Jandar's bubble. Yeah. Because who else would he?
Be? Yeah, he was, but unless he's like kind of has disagreements with Jandar,
his own
thing.
Yeah, I mean he could still summon his own army and have an alliance with Jandar.
This color is like almost blue.
Stormbrook says, "What color plastic would?"
A lot of people are saying white, which is funny.
That's what I was actually thinking, like parchment type white. Since he's been recording everything. That would be my thought. Yeah, no, thank you, Stormbrook, for that live comment there. Okay, moving on. Okay, just a few comments left. G Busy says, Ben, have you ever considered recording yourself reading through Thorman's journal audiobook style for YouTube? I put off reading the journals for so long because, well, reading. You certainly have a voice for it. You certainly do, Ben. I think it would be a super approachable way for people to get into the lore of Heroscape. Okay, I got something to say on this, but Ben, go ahead and respond first, okay?
Well, I did read this comment already, I went to YouTube and looked at the video, and I thought about it, and I literally have, when I first got back into Heroscape 2 years ago, I opened the rulebook and I looked on the front cover, like on the inside of the front cover, and I was like, what? Maybe it was the actual first page of the rulebook, but it's Thorman's journal, his first journal entry. And I saw it and I was like, whoa, like, I've never seen this before. As a kid, I probably didn't care about it. But now as a grown man, reading this, I'm like, wow, this is the story of Heroscape. So that was the first Heroscape video I ever made. It was probably the 3rd video I made for my YouTube. But I literally went through and I transcribed it and I read it. But I, altered my voice a little. It was my first YouTube video. I have all these funky pictures in the background, and the music is from the iMovie stock music. So I literally they told me, oh, you can't make money off of this video because it has all these licensed materials in it, all the pictures and stuff.
No.
But yeah, I have that's my first video I made for YouTube, was me reading Thorman's first journal entry. But now that they got the guy to actually do the voiceover, they're paying a guy, I feel like I gotta move on to somebody else. I'll let him do Thorman, and I guess I could still read the journals, just not as Thorman, because in the video I read it like I was Thorman. But yeah, that I did have that idea to read the journals. And I still, when we got back into it too, when I was invited by Ryan to join the podcast, before it was even a podcast, actually, we read all of the journals, and I was like, wow, like I forgot a lot of this. Some of this stuff I didn't even like absorb into my memory, and I was like, this would be a really cool series on YouTube or even like podcast version to just read this out loud. Like that's just for people to get the lore, for people who not necessarily don't like to read or whatever, but just don't have the time to read. They could multitask and listen to the journal entries and then do whatever they're doing at the same time, which I think wasn't this like a vision for the podcast though? It's for us to delve into the lore in that aspect.
When we get around to it, yeah. That might be.
There's just too much news.
We've done a little bit of that, but yeah, I mean that's something we probably plan when things start slowing down eventually, and I say eventually very loosely because when you think it's slowing down, then it doesn't. Yeah, I mean we'll hop into those because I mean those are on my computer. The journal entries are on my computer. So whenever I feel like we got extra time, then we'll hop into the next because we covered one. We covered the first one. We covered some in the middle that Chris wanted us to cover a while back. Mm-hmm. But we'll move on to number 2 when we have the time. Not tonight, and probably not for like a little while. But yeah, we're gonna get into those. No, I wanted to also like mention with this comment too that when I watched Ben's videos, I think it was like a couple years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm just like, dang. I'm like, if I had actually heard you, Ben, like say like 4 or 5 years ago, you would have been Jandar, like for Tales of Valhalla. It would have been me because you have that type of voice. But unfortunately, I have to do it because I got myself stuck in it. But there is definitely when it comes to I mean I don't know about what Avalon Hill has to say about the subject, but I know that for future seasons of Tales of Valhalla, Ben is probably I'm probably gonna get him to like work on his inflection and voice a few characters. I mean same with Joe, and they're already voicing some minor characters near the end of Tales of Valhalla season 3. But I definitely want them to be given what time is allowed to have some main characters. Possible very main like central characters in future seasons. So yeah, it's definitely in my mind. I'm sure Ben has like other ideas for his own personal side, and he should. I mean, he's a content creator in his own right. But I definitely have ideas and plans for the future when it comes to all of us in the voice acting sphere of things, for sure.
I just want to expound on that just a tiny bit. I was like overjoyed and honored when Ryan first hit me up. He's like, you got a golden voice. Like he literally said what he just said. I wish I'd found out about this years ago and you would have voiced, characters on my show instead of catching me at the tail end of season 3. Like pretty much that was where you caught me, was when you were still in production, like into season 3. And I was able to film.
I had already had like 99% of all voiceovers already done.
Yeah. So
it's like, darn.
But that's awesome because like my whole life, I'm not trying to boast or brag, but like people have told me, you have a nice speaking voice, and I get that from my father. My father was a preacher, and so like I have that tone and I have that like the inflection in my voice, and I've 100% got that from him. But now people will tell me, since he's passed away, people tell me like, wow, you sound exactly like your father. And so I've just taken that always, my whole life. People said, oh, you have a voice for radio. And so I've always thought in my life, if I had somebody to animate and somebody to help me write a story, I could make my own series, and now like literally I have the team right here in front of me, and we could get it going. So there's like as soon as Ryan invited me to the project, his project, I immediately thought of what we could do for the future too. And that's just going to be awesome. Just like collabs and with, bringing, you already have Jeremy's help as a writer, but even if we, go on our own tangent or do whatever in terms of animating / writing,
I'll bring y'all back.
We have a team.
I'll bring
we have a team already built,
sure.
And it's only gonna get stronger. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm like so thankful and so like happy that from that little conversation turned into, asking me to be on the show, to ScapeCon, and all of us getting together, and then now look where we are. So literally, the possibilities are endless.
Losing sleep. We're here
ToV
losing sleep.
and for what was that? Sorry.
I said we're here losing sleep. That's what we're doing right now.
For sure. But yeah, thanks for the opportunity, and thanks G Busy for Blizzy, G Glizzy, G Busy. Thanks G Busy for the comment.
Yeah,
I really enjoy hearing that I have a nice voice.
Yes, for sure. Now, one more comment, and this is from I don't know this person, Demon Hunter Pillar P86. Says, great to see Sir Heroscape on. Another link might be good to add to the description is the UK website for the campaign. It's the same as the North America one, but add UK to the beginning. I found this in a video, and he mentioned that near the end of the podcast too. So yeah, just repeating it. But yes, I mean, when you go into like, if you're not logging in to the Hasbro Pulse website, it'll ask you what region you're from, and then it'll you just point and click, and it will show you. So I mean, regular link in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube, for the Hasbro Pulse website, and it'll take you there and sort that out. Now I know there's some comments on the Twitch comments here. Thanks guys for commenting. Let me just read through these real quick before we sign off on this podcast. See here, Blast Shark says, for terrain beyond Vanguard Edition, it would be super cool to see modular spaceship wreckage, kind of like a crushed Space Hulk from 40K. Yeah, I haven't done much with 40K, but one game, I think this was like my second favorite game, aside from Heroscape, that me and Jason played and reviewed, and that was the board game Space Hulk. Jason, do you still have that in storage somewhere?
I do.
I've been trying to find one to buy. It is so darn expensive, even if you can find one. It was a really, really fun game. I had a great... Anytime like I go up to Jason's place anymore, and he's got it around, I'm probably going to have an inkling to say, hey, can we just play this for a few minutes, just because it was a blast. But yes, spaceship wreckage, from that aspect, especially what they could do maybe with terrain rules or spaceship wreckage rules, that would be a fun thing to explore for sure, for Heroscape. Let's see here. Stormbrookie says, what sort of things do you want to see in the future regarding the release of the games? What do you think of seasons instead of waves for the new units? What do you think about the progress of the campaign with 2,200 now currently, I guess? And we still need 8,000. Yeah. I read something off, and I don't have the link for it right now, but I read something off Reddit from someone who is just a game collector, not a Heroscape player, and basically just gave some good insights for the fact, like everybody stay calm. For a HasLab crowdfunding campaign, you're actually at a good pace. So just give it time, give the people time to develop it, and you're gonna see this through. So it was a nice little bit. If I can find the link for it, I'll put it in the link for it in the description on YouTube. But it was a really nice little explanation. Undamp Pick also says in the chat, I'd rather see pirate ships terrain to go with the Down Raiders. I like to see both pirate ships and pirate spaceships. Why not? Okay, let's you get a pirate ship, you get a pirate ship, you get a pirate ship, you get a pirate ship. See, I also need a Dawn Raider Viper. Dawn Raider, but yeah. I know. We just feel like Christmas, but we're like, again, we're just what's that? Oliver Twist. Isn't Oliver Twist? Please, sir, I want some more.
But I 100% agree with that. Sorry, I didn't even think about that till I saw the comment on the Twitch comment by Undamp Pick. We 100% need a Dawn Raider Viper, and that would be so thematic because they already have a Morrow, so. Maybe they're on opposite pirate ships, or they're forced to be in the same crew, and that would just bring such a good was it Chedwick and Sven aspect? There's just the two characters that are there for together, and they're their own story arc, they're their own little thing. Is this Morrow Viper and this Morrow Pirate? I mean, Morrow Viper. Whoa, that would be crazy. But I think that's Musaga.
Yeah, no, like a Viper, like a Morrow pirate and a Viper pirate, sit together and start talking about things like
it sounds like a sounds like the next
awesome.
buddy comedy, actually.
That would be awesome. I'd animate that.
They used to be on opposite sides. Now they're buddies.
Now they're buddies, just watching the war. They're not fighting. They're just watching it. You know, they might end up with another zombie sidekick. Who knows? Or maybe not a zombie. Maybe what is it? Maybe one of the swarms decide to just stop by them and they're feeding it like crumbs or something. Okay, and more common bears. Let's see. Stormbrook says, and more common bears. What's this? Undamaged pick. 023. I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
Undamped pick, I think they meant to say.
Okay.
They just got their screen name.
Gotcha.
He's replying to them.
Probably auto-corrected.
Undamped pick. I love a bear. I'd love a bear bard with a banjo. Any character with a banjo on their back, I'm for. Yeah. That just gives it personality, That just. I'll play you a song while I kill you. Yep.
Banjo-Kazooie in here.
I mean, a bard character in general would be very interesting for Heroscape.
Yes. Anyway, okay. Thank you guys for the comments. Damp Pick Stormbrook. See your Blast Shark. Even I had monsters at the beginning. Thanks you guys for your comments for this live stream. Now, what I'm going to do first, because this live stream actually continue, but the podcast is going to end. So I'm going to do that first, so you guys don't go anywhere a second. But I'm going to first, to end this, the ToV podcast, I'm going to go around, everybody give your final thoughts, and where people can see you. You guys know the drill. Joe, go ahead and go first.
Hey. It was super fun to talk to Paul and Ken, and of course talk to Mike again. It was super, super cool, and I hope they do come on. The compass is still very fascinating to me. I think it's interesting to know, how big are they going to go with this? How detailed are they going to go with this? Will it just be shapes on a map and slap names on it? Will we actually see maybe individual areas with towns and cities and villages or whatever? Could this just turn into, and which one thing I'm praying for, just because I've become, really interested in Dungeons and Dragons, is because how communities are turning every franchise into a D&D experience. Could we go play a D&D experience within the Heroscape world and travel to Hawkland and travel to the deep sea areas and meet Jandar himself? Like, that'd be such a great thing too, is align ourselves with what general. You're not taking a character and playing as them. You are creating one to be summoned in this world, and you can get to pick who you're being summoned and your class and your abilities and that sort of thing. So I see the potential of what a map could do, not just for the lore, but for what the games and different types of games we could be getting in the future. So. But that, of course, is also a conversation for another day. So, thank you, Ryan, again, because I probably won't talk to you after this, because you're going to go do some work and edit.
I'll take a break for a second, so I can give you guys a formal goodbye, but yeah.
Okay, well. But yes, so I am Joe Crazy 3193. I am not crazy. I know I usually say that the other way around, but I'm not done talking right now. Because I wanted to say that go check out my YouTube channel. I'm currently working on a bunch of different projects. I'm looking at some post-it notes currently of all the projects I have to get done. There's about 7 of them. right now, and I got a whole notebook full of them. But I'm working on updates. I'm working on my ScapeCon footage, which, by the way, remind you all, 14 hours worth of ScapeCon footage. And I'm actually working on some ads of my own for Age of Annihilation that I'm hoping to create to spread the word of how awesome this game is. So mostly funny stuff to set, because it's comical for me. But
also
yeah,
planning the Heroscape.
What?
Also playing the Heroscape, the Wellerman tune.
Oh, and yeah, that I haven't heard back from my cousin yet.
Okay.
Because I reached out to him because he's very musically inclined, and he actually makes his own music and stuff. So I reached out to him. I know he had some he's still in high school, so he's been pretty busy. But yeah, once I hear back from him, we'll work on getting that fully done, and we'll get my dance remix out there too.
Absolutely, yeah. I've got people commenting on that for sure.
Excellent.
All right, sir.
We'll get on that. But once again, press all the buttons. I am not crazy. I am Joe Crazy. 31, 93. Thank you, Ryan.
Ben.
What's up? My final thoughts. Let's get this project funded. I know, people are doing whatever they can to get it done. If you, like I've said before, if you feel like it's, the price point is a little steep, just buddy up with somebody who, Heroscape is a social game. I know you don't play Heroscape by yourself. So whoever you do play with Heroscape with, kind of break up the set. Maybe you like a faction more than your buddy, or, whatever. Just break it up that way and split up the terrain, or keep it at somebody's house and, it's both of yours. But still, multiple people too. Like, one backer is one backer closer to our goal. So even if it's 4 people in one technically backer, that's still one more backer for this brand new Age of Annihilation that we could possibly get. And you're not only investing in this set physically right now, but you're investing in the future of Heroscape. So if you look at it like that, you're already getting great value for what you're actually getting with the set, for the money you're paying, but also all the value that it brings, you backing just that one backer, all the value that brings to the future of Heroscape. So think about it like that. Let's get this game funded. Hopefully there's just so much more in store for Heroscape. And yeah, lore-wise, this Compass Rose was awesome. It told us that they're expanding the map. It told us that they have their own language that they're developing for the world, for the civilization of the ancient Kyrie or whatever. But yeah, they're working really hard. And I also want you to keep in mind too that there are human people behind the profiles and behind the accounts that update the information, or that are possibly working with Avalon Hill or Hasbro. Those are real people with real emotions and real feelings. And I'm not saying that your comments about this game are going to hurt their feelings, but when attacks get personal and beyond the scope of this HasLab, or not just with employees of Avalon Hill or Hasbro, but just with other people on Facebook, with other people in the Discord, they're actual people. Let's just come together instead of causing dysfunction. This is a tight-knit community, and it always has been. And so I would just like to see that perpetuated in the future. We are all human. Hasbro is they're a company, but there are real people behind those profiles. So why don't we just treat everybody with respect, and on both sides of the fence, whether you're pro, this HasLab, or you're anti this HasLab, either way, we can still keep it civil, and we can still have constructive and level-headed conversations. And like like just listening to the podcast with Mike and Ken, they did bring up a lot of issues, but they did it in a way that wasn't threatening. It wasn't, like malicious or negative. They just saw what could change, or what could positive changes they could make to make this HasLab project succeed. So take a note from their book. Even if you have something, negative to say, why not word it in a constructive way rather than a way that's going to break somebody down? So that's just my little PSA for today. I don't like the negativity that's being spread, and I just hope we can, just come together as a community and really just back each other and back this project. But I'm MK Plus Ultra. You can find me on YouTube at MK Plus Ultra. You can also find me on Instagram at MK_plus_ultra. I've been doing the daily updates of the Age of Annihilation news that we've been receiving. I'm still going, still posting updates. But yeah, you can find me there. And I did just start working again at my job. I'm off of the parental bonding leave, FMLA. So I started on graveyard shift. So my whole schedule has changed. I gotta shuffle some stuff around, but I still am dedicated to making Heroscape content. So keep an eye out for that. But there's just been a little delay because I am back at work. But I'm still here for you guys, for sure.
For sure, Ben. For sure. Jason.
Yeah, so I think a few minutes ago I just heard Joe volunteer to be the dungeon master for our Heroscape-based Dungeons and Dragons campaign.
Well,
What was that?
I don't know about Dungeon Master.
And therefore, I'm going to go ahead and claim the role of the Morrow Pirate and drive you guys all crazy by talking like my Nico Saab voice the entire time. But yeah, so other than that, no. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, it was a good show. It was interesting talking to those guys, and I listened to their whole episode and more or less agree with everything they had to say about the Age of Annihilation thing. So it was just good to get a little bit more clarification on some points, and that was about it. So I'm Jason, the creator of the Tabletop Battlefield. You can find my content over at tabletopbattlefield.com, and my Legends of Caledasia rulebook is on the floor, so I've got unreleased miniatures for you today. And that's over at EmpireUnderSiege.com.
Thank you, Jason. Jeremy.
All right. Yeah. Every time I listen to anybody that does like gameplay content or just like heavy review of gameplay content, it just kind of makes me sad because I don't get to play that much. I don't get to play much Heroscape. I'm trying to get a group of friends involved right now, and it's working really slowly. So I'm kind of like, I can't scratch the itch right now. So every time I listen to gameplay, strategy, anything like that, that itch gets stronger. It makes me a little sad. But it's awesome to hear. There's like this really cool, really calculated systems out with all this with the tournament play. That's really cool to see. And I don't know. If anything, it's nice to see this talk continue. 12 years after the fact, like this is still going on, right? Like they're still planning things out. They're still drafting things out like this, and that's fascinating to me as someone that would love to play much more often but doesn't get to. It's nice to see that this is still going on in such a heavy way, and it's super cool to get to hear it from the mouth of the casters of Valhalla themselves. Thank you to them for stopping by and giving us that insight. I guess some more final thoughts. Thank you to the 2,199 backers. Thank you so much for backing Heroscape and putting that belief into the funding. So super excited to see how that number updates by next week. And that Compass Rose, of course, is just I'm super excited about the Kyrie alphabet. I'm super excited about the expansion of the map. I want to see New Tortuga. I want to see the Sundered Sea. I want to learn about the Dawn Raider Syndicate, and how they've settled into Valhalla, and just how much of it is theirs now. Because that's going to be really cool to check out. And everything with that. So super excited for all this, and just the future of Heroscape, wherever this takes us. So of course, and And just for the record, I didn't turn on my camera because I was kind of worried about how many faces were going to be on the screen, and I wanted to put more like I was like, man, as I was thinking, I was like, oh my gosh, there's going to be so many people, and so I didn't do that. And then by the time I thought about it, I was like, oh well, it's not that bad as I thought. Anyways, that's why I'm off screen. I was just like, oh man, that was such a weird decision to make, but whatever, I'll stick to it.
It's okay. If it's a ToV podcast, not gonna matter much. Your voice is being heard anyway. So.
Right? Yeah. I was just like, man, as I was like mid-show, I was like, why did I not get on the camera? But like, it was all good. So, but yeah, I was just glad to get to meet the casters of Valhalla, in person and get to talk to them. So I'm glad they got a chance to share their stuff. But of course, my channel, the Eslam Collate, I do all the lore content that you are curious about. I have my Twitch channel, the Eslam Collate. You can find me on YouTube and on Twitter, and it's _SLM. You can ask me any questions that you might have about lore. Feel free to DM me about lore questions if you have any as well. I do answer a lot of side questions throughout the week, and yeah, super excited to see what we got on the way.
For sure. Thank you, Jeremy. And yes, I knew tonight was going to be a heavy night. I knew it was probably going to take a little bit of time to get done, but I think for a first interview segment, I think it went just fine. Just to get these last little comments here in the live chat. Blast Shark just ordered a bunch of Mantic Games minis to use for zombies and Microcarp agents. Very excited for them. Good for you, Blast Shark. Blast Shark, do you have a YouTube channel of the same name? Because I think I've watched some of your stuff.
He does.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for joining us live here tonight. Yeah, I do watch some of your content. Good stuff. Keep on doing it. Definitely keep on doing it. And that pick says, for the Heroscape RPG, I want to be one of the secret agents from the future Earth, but reject Vidar and join Einar and lead a group of samurai. I think all of us want to lead a group of samurai, to be perfectly honest. Also says, I'm also looking forward to more information on New Tortuga. Yes, and there better be a Jack Sparrow in the works, or something that has a similar name but same attitude and special abilities that are
whatever Avalon Hill can do that won't get sued by Disney. Disney owns that guy.
I want an ability that says I have a jar of dirt, and it be some just really.
What if
cool
it's a jar of gravel?
Ability.
Or like
Whatever.
a container of gravel.
I have a jar. Right. I don't care, but just something to. He
that just goes effect. Up to doors and just opens them up a little bit.
We just need to put a jar. Was it the sand tiles? Put a jar in that and do the skit for that or something.
Yeah, Ryan. Just give it more work to do.
We keep on talking forever. Stormbrook says on Friday they released a new lore theories. If you're talking about in the Discord chat, I can't keep track of that, but I'm sure they did, and we might get to those next Sunday. But right now we are going to close down this podcast. I am Ryan, Tales of Valhalla, and here if you're listening to this on a ToV podcast, you're just gonna hear it. You're not gonna see it visually, but this is technically, and I'm sure you people heard this before, but this is what I do. I do stop motion. A Heroscape adventure, and so this is about 35 seconds, and you're going to hear Correct the Elementalist taunting Kelda, and then you're going to hear Estavara talking to Henderson, who's one of the Airborne main characters in the show. I just want to play this one more time for reference, and then I'll do my close just here. Hold on one moment here.
So, Kelda, this is how your quest ends. Everyone that you've been protecting, captured or dead.
I can offer you something you want.
And what would that be?
Power.
All right, so that teaser was for Tales of Valhalla, Episode 7, Season 3. That's going to be the next episode that we're going to release like 2 Wednesdays from now. I'm actually and I'm going to continue this live stream tonight and work on it a little bit. So if you're watching the live stream, don't go anywhere. And so yeah, so that's something to look forward to. And like I said, on the 3rd season, I have almost 3 seasons of this stuff now, hours and hours of stop motion Heroscape content to watch on Tales of Valhalla YouTube. So if you see this or if you're hearing this on the ToV podcast, definitely check it out. So it's family friendly, something for the kids, and just something all to just have a deeper love and bond for Heroscape for sure. And another thing too, I'm expanding Twitch. I'll explain that in a little bit later as well. But for right now, yeah, my thoughts are just it was a great podcast. Hope we'll see those guys in the future. Press all the buttons from everybody and everything. I hope I can get all the descriptions in of everything. If I'm missing something, please comment, and I'll definitely fill in the blanks if needed. But with that, I will sign off on this on the ToV podcast here, saying you have a purpose in your life. Find it, pursue it, live it, and we'll see you guys next time when I'm sure there's going to be just a ton more stuff next week that we're going to cover. So stay tuned. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Later.
Take it easy.